Last time, on Asmiliath adventures, our heroes surround the pile of dispatched enemies blocking the roadway, their rot-infested corpses centered around their young. Determined to make sure the brood of carrion crawlers never come to fruition, Sierra begins to douse the birthing sacks with Sparky's flammable goo, preparing to set them ablaze. With a small newtling doing the honors, the party discuss the plan going forward, as the roaring fire begins to clear the road for the wagon. Just before the pile had burned down low enough, the consistently cold air of the highway freezes. The eyes of the Golden Hearts find their way from the burning pile up to the corner of the hallway, peering into the darkness as a sense of terror begin to creep down their spines. All but Valoran begin to see horrific scenes play out before them, striking at their deepest fears in an attempt to paralyze the party. Staring up at the true form of this horror and seeing a shadowy mass lurking in the darkness, Valoran rushes into action as Sierra's pendant lets out an unmistakable racket. Quickly, the two that were able to hold off the twisted illusions of the shadow begin to collect their party and flee, Valoran able to wrench both Thor and Rolly out of their frozen state, as Sierra uses the Pocket Sun to create a barrier the shadow cannot enter. With the party now present, or thrown onto a mount, our heroes begin to race away from the scene, barreling down the hallway with Terry wielding the reins of the wagon. The racket of the wooden wheels clashing against the cobblestone road echoes into the distance as the shadowy creature sits on their heels, lingering at the limit of the light in hopes of an opportunity. Finally finding one, the monster sends out a tendril of his figure, latching onto the source of the light and attempting to wrestle it from Sierra's hands. Knowing that the light is the only thing keeping them safe, Sierra refuses to let go, finding herself stumbling from the cart for her stubbornness. Despite the attempts of Thor and Rolly, her body tumbles down towards the road, being followed by those who attempted to aid her. With half the party racing away with the wagon, and the other half splayed out on the stone, the creature creates the opening it had hoped for. I cannot speak. Unable to guard both groups, Valoran finds himself with the decision of helping his friends or helping the wagon. Hoping to achieve both anyway, he spurs Belgris towards the wagon, drawing as much attention as he can. Despite his resolve to keep the monster occupied, Valoran's vision is stolen from him, and the shadow beats him to the wagon. Unable to do anything but watch, the party see the creature dash through their cart, a terrified scream following the movement. Catching back up to their wagon, the party find Adam lifeless and cold, on the seat he had warmed for many months, his eyes staring blankly towards the dark stone. Sparky had taken it upon himself to stop Terry in his attempt to flee with the wagon, the two finishing their grapple as our heroes catch up. Still unsafe, but at least back in one group, the party continue to trudge their way toward Corntomb's heel, hoping to lose their deadly tail there. For many hours, and with the combined power of Rolly's sacred flame and the light from the Pocket Sun, our heroes finish their journey unmolested, rolling into the dwarven town, angry and weary. Confronting Terry about his cowardice and seeking help in potentially reviving their lost driver, the Golden Hearts spend the night in their newfound safety. Unable to resurrect their friend, only managing to preserve his corpse for a time, the party is faced with the task of pushing forward, learning that the road that they must travel is full of danger yet again. Forgoing assistance from the town guard, and determined to finish their path through the highways, our heroes depart Corntomb's heel. It is July 26, as the party make their way through the gate, once again finding themselves in the unforgiving halls of the highway. Hoping to keep the party from further harm, Sierra again lays out the situation. So, you have just left Corntomb's heel, the guards on the wall kind of giving you a passing farewell in Dwarvish, wishing you safety on your travels. Sierra's kind of gathered you all around the wagon more or less, with your various modes of transportation, turning around and addressing you all. Well, they had an attack this morning and they drove them off, so if all goes well, we should at least have an hour or two before they might return, that we can create some distance between Corntomb and us.
Well, then let's not waste any time.
Precisely my thinking. So she would waste no time kind of like steering you guys down the hallway, very much being on guard with the knowledge that these potential monstrous, almost Yeti-like creatures could be lingering practically anywhere at this point. That like slight bit of uneasiness that the Dwarven Highway kind of gives you, especially after your interaction with the Shadow Terror, begins to kind of seep in yet again as the green flame illuminates the area around you and begins to kind of set the mood for the pace for today. How is everybody traveling currently? Let's start with that.
I would take it that Thor would be in front. And I'll take a position about 10 feet behind him.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and handle the cart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ride next to it.
Okay, so we got Valorant on Belgreaves beside the wagon, Jarek driving the wagon, and then Rolly and Thor kind of up at the front. Where is Terry at this point? Like, is he allowed on the wagon? Is he walking behind?
I figured walking behind the wagon.
Okay, simple enough. Sierra would kind of be like leading up front. I guess Thor and her on foot, kind of keeping pace. No one kind of pushing to, move faster than is reasonably necessary. But for the time being, you're just going to be traveling towards West Point. It's about a 2-day journey. You guys are leaving the morning of the 26th, so you probably arrive the morning or noon of the 28th. What knowledge that, Rolla, you may know that you could potentially pass on to the party. West Point is the town that kind of connects to folk in the Dwarven Underground. So there is not necessarily folkish influence, but they are the most well-versed in kind of dealing with the distinctly different folkish culture. There are a few different oddities that the town might have that really reflect that. But what West Point is really known for is it is a kind of deep gem and mineral mine. The town that's connected to it in folk is known for being one of the biggest jewelry and fine craftsmanship cities in the human side of the world. So that's more or less the destination that you guys are heading towards. The just for note keeping sake, the city connected to West Point, the one inside folk, is called Vilstein. So that is the city that you will arrive in after leaving the highways. So what are you guys doing during your travel, unless something disturbs you?
I would ask Sierra what dangers she expects on this section of the road, what's been encountered here. It's kind of indigenous to this area.
Mm-hmm. She would probably flip through that kind of giant tome that she carries with the various, small notes kind of plastered on the pages and sticking out of the binding every so often, looking at this particular route, and then any sort of log of mentionings of creatures or monsters or threats that you might come across. Besides the Quaggas that have been kind of focused around Corntomb and is potentially the most present problem, there's the very similar... I already forgot what they were called, but she described them to you when you initially set off on the highway. The monsters that disguise themselves as stalactites and stalagmites and then kind of ambush people as they pass by. That is prevalent basically throughout the entire Dwarven highway except for the really well traveled roadways. So that could potentially be somewhere in your future. But besides that, there aren't any recent sightings or notes or mentions of anything more dangerous than just a rat or a spider or something that you could kind of just ignore for the most part. So, maybe about 2 or 3 hours after you all depart, Sierra moves herself to the back of the caravan is what we could describe your movement as, going and actually speaking in a hushed voice with Terry, going back and forth with him for several minutes. For those paying attention, the conversation seems not hostile at the very least. They both kind of leave it with a unamused look on their face. But after her conversation with Terry, she would then come up to you, Valor, and kind of, again, the massive height disparity between you on Belgreaves and the short dwarf beside you, kind of craning her neck up. Valor, and I've been thinking, and I might need some advice.
Of course. I'll actually dismount and walk next to my horse.
Okay. You mentioned the surface, and was curious if I wanted to see it, and I won't lie, I think it would be rather interesting to see what it looks like and finally have some frame of reference to go by, but the reason that I am asking is I know that the city that you are heading towards in Folk, they deal with minerals and gems, and it's a rather large city as far as the surface standards go by. I'm hoping that there is a healer or somebody there that could bring back Adam. But I do not personally have the funds to do so. I obviously am foregoing any sort of payment that was going to come my way for guiding you through, for obvious reasons. But that's my last hope, to finish this journey without feeling as though I am a failure.
Well, you're no more a failure than the rest of us. He was our comrade. I'm not going to hold out any particular hope, but of course the Golden Hearts will look into this possibility, I'm sure.
I know that a diamond is necessary for such a feat. I'm not incredibly well versed with that side of our world, but West Point is where the gems are mined, and I have some connections with the towns down here on the highways. My hope is that I can acquire a diamond big enough for the ritual, or whatever the process is, and then pass it on to you, and then have you all find the healer who's powerful enough to bring him back.
You're going well above and beyond, Sierra.
When you spend 30 years of your life doing what I do and never losing someone, it is a rather drastic event to witness.
Well, I've been down here for a few days, and I also found it quite drastic.
I just thought it was food for thought. I don't know if it is the right course of action, but it is what feels right, with me at least.
Was he posing some difficulty? And I kind of angle my head at Terry.
She glances back at him, and you see her kind of look a little flustered and look back up at you. I was curious about the truthfulness of his words. If he was trying to save himself or potentially help Adam, or what all went down in that quick series of events, and he doesn't seem to be the most forthcoming with his emotions. He more or less just discarded my inquiries with jokes, which I'm not too pleased with.
Well, you can join the rest of the group in that. I didn't find there to be any particular mystery in his motivations at the time. Rather, I think the varying accounts have come up rather after the fact. But it doesn't matter now.
There is some truth to that. It is what it is, and playing it over and over in our heads to try and find a better solution is rather fruitless at this point. I will say, though, that city dwarves are not built like us Legion dwarves. I've seen plenty of stout warriors of their own entitlement run from much less intimidating foes than that shadow that we fought, so I wouldn't put it past a city dwarf to flee for his life, and I wouldn't blame him if that's what happened.
Dwarfs show at least as much variety of character as any of the surface-dwelling ancestries.
I have a lot to think on for now. I am interested to see the surface, and I hope that it does not overwhelm me, but I will not make any promises.
I seriously doubt you could be overwhelmed.
Looks like she was going to come back with something, but she seems to think better of it and kind of nod her head and then move back to the front of the wagon.
I'll mount back up.
Okay. So, we'll say that you guys, that was about like 2 hours after leaving Corntomb. At this point, Sira is not relinquishing her guard, but is less concerned about an attack, having moved so far away from where the Quaggas have kind of centered around, more or less. She still is kind of leading the caravan and keeping an eye out, and again, writing down very, not intricate, but in-depth notes about anything that you guys pass by, any sort of like damaged columns or equipment, or, you know, bumps in the roadway, things of that nature. But you're left to continue traveling for at least a small amount of time. So, is there anything that the party would like to do at this point?
I would send a message over to my fast friend Tormik.
Okay.
Let me think. Tormik, this is Jarek. Had to leave for a week. I'll be back to get my ring soon after that.
Okay. And they can reply to this?
They have the option.
You would not get a reply. Okay. So, since we kind of skipped a little segment of where we left off and where we picked up, Adam was retrieved from the kind of lesser church of the mother, put in the wagon, you know, still wrapped up and preserved. So you guys have some time frame before he begins to leave this world in a more physical sense. Distinctly, as you get Adam situated, you notice that Sparky takes an intense interest, might be the right way of describing it, in guarding Adam. Still wielding the little burnt shard that he's been holding for weeks at this time. It's kind of sitting beside the covered figure. Whenever someone kind of like threatens to, you know, bump something and tip it over or jostle him, you know, Sparky makes it rather clear that Adam is to not be disturbed. So that's currently what your little newtling companion is doing. So,
Yeah, I think at this point, Jarek would notice that Spark is growing up. He's getting a little bit bigger now. And he might be ready for some extra responsibility, more than just a shard of wood. And he'll go ahead and give Sparky his dagger.
okay. You would have to persuade him to give up his shard of wood.
No, Sparky. One in each hand. Twice as effective.
He looks at his hands, where he only has like 3 fingers, and none of them are thumbs. So there isn't a ton of versatility in that. And he like grabs the shard with one hand, kind of like very weakly pinning it with his 3 fingers, and looks up at you. He goes, "Toll!" and like grabs the shard with both his hands.
Okay, well, Sparky, just keep it nearby. And if anything seems it could take a good, poke, use that instead.
He would like use his little point to shuffle the dagger like next to him, kind of like putting it in the pile near him, and then just sits back down. So, as you guys continue down the road, just keeping pace, going about your day, Getting about halfway through your day of travel at this point, Sierra would come up to you, Rolly, as you're all kind of moving through the highway, like looking up at you, kind of moving next to you in silence for a few seconds before she actually begins to speak. Halfbeard, I wanted to get your opinion on something.
Well, I'm full of those.
From what I know about your family, you functioned on the surface, right? That was one of your jobs?
Yes, it was. I married.
So I don't know, I don't know if you have anything to compare it to since you were born on the surface, but,
I was not born on the surface. My mother took me to Bronshard to be born in Bronshard.
My apologies, I assumed, but, I have yet to see the surface, and, I have promised your companion that I would give it a go, and, I don't know what to expect, and I was hoping that since you were a dwarf and you know what it's like to some extent, and you've dealt with the surface, if there was advice that you might give me.
Well, there's... It can be a confusing place. Humans are, for as many faults as dwarves have, humans have them all magnified, and for as much good. Humans have also managed to magnify. So it's very hard upon meeting any particular human to judge them until you've really got to know them. And then, of course, there's more than just humans now, aren't there? So, all in all, it can be quite overwhelming for someone who wasn't born to it, raised in it. But it's beautiful. For as magnificent as Bronshard is, the stars are really something else. The world is much bigger, you'll see, than some tunnels underneath the city.
Kind of nods along to your description. You can see a kind of a mixture of emotions kind of crossing her face, like almost like an excitement and then a nervousness, and seeing a bit more expression than you have from Sierra since the beginning of your journey. Once you kind of like finish, she speaks back up. I thought that it would be in your best interest to know that your companion might not be the right term, but your Terry, he has also never been to the surface, and he disclosed this to me, and he is rather nervous about it, so I know that he is not on anybody's good side currently, but that might be something to consider moving forward.
Well, I guess the thing I should consider about Terry is that I've led far from a perfect. Maybe there's some space for him to redeem himself. I don't believe for a second that he was motivated by anything other than sheer terror, but I don't. Looking at it now, that was a terrifying encounter, and nothing in his experience has ever prepared him for that. Don't tell him I said that, though.
I'm not in the business of clucking like a hen, so your secret is safe with me, Halfbeard.
Now, while I've got you here, I heard you prattling on about not taking payment, this, that, or the other. It's true that Adam died while in your company, but There was nothing you were going to do to prevent that. If we'd been surprised by something that you should have known, could have known about, well, then there's fault there, but I don't believe you're at fault. And for my part, I'll still render payment, at least from my own personal treasury. Take it or not, give it to your company. I'm sure they can find something worthwhile to do.
She kind of like glances back at Valorant for a second and then back to you. The conversation of my responsibility over the matter will be talked to death, I'm sure, but if you are insistent on passing coin my way, I would much rather see it put towards an effort to see Adam brought back to this world rather than coming to me. If I can bring him back with the amount that I am owed, then I would much rather see that than it going back to the Legion.
That's all very noble, but in the end, bringing him back is not your responsibility. That's ours. And if he can be, we'll make it happen. But I wouldn't dare to hope on that. It would take a very powerful healer to bring him back after being slow.
Well, you would know more about this than I, but it is difficult for me to accept that he is truly gone.
Well, you're right, I do know more about this thing. And believe me, this is, it's probably going to remain as right now. But you never know, the stranger things have happened, and the word miracle exists for a reason.
Well, I guess we shall, see how we fare once we get to our destination. I do appreciate your insight and your wisdom. I, only hope that the Mother speaks through you and guides me where I need to go.
And the next time I ask you to have a drink, you better...
I will consider it a bit more, in depth next time.
In the depths of a mug.
As you two have been talking, she occasionally is kind of like still, glancing forward, making sure that nothing is, approaching. Maybe, again, in the mines, the hallway, highways, you can see a pretty fair distance when they're just kind of cut straight. Maybe about a mile or two down the road, you see what appears to be like a cave-in, or like a sheer stop. Like a bunch of the rubble or columns or the stone itself has actually physically blocked the entire passage. She notices it at this point, kind of looks back at the party, looks back towards the blockage. That could be a problem.
Sarah.
Yes.
What do we do?
We shall examine first.
Okay.
So she would more or less just, keep you guys moving forward, but eventually with the goal of approaching the cave-in and kind of seeing what's wrong with it. So, is there any particular way that you all are approaching this?
When we get approximately 30 feet away from the thing, I'd like to cast Detect Thoughts to see if there's anything thinking within 30 feet.
Send me the description of that. Okay. Do you have Spark Notes for this?
So within the
3 or lower is the intelligence.
spell. Okay, you can use this spell to detect the presence of thinking creatures you can't see. When you cast as your action, you can search for thoughts within 30 feet. Can penetrate barriers, but 2 feet of rock, 2 inches of metal other than lead, thin sheet of lead, blah, blah, blah. Cannot detect a creature with intelligence of 3 or lower.
Gotcha. So yes, Jarek, as you are driving the wagon still at this point, you kind of stop it, about 30 or so feet from the cave-in, more or less, is what to describe it as. You reach out with this spell as Sierra is kind of approaching the base of it to try and see, if there's any sort of way to shift things out of the way or make a passage through. And you do begin hearing thoughts drifting into your mind. Are you able to discern a different language since it's just thoughts? How does that work?
If I cast it like this, I can only tell there is a thinking individual there.
Okay.
But then if I go in and detect surface thoughts, I don't know if it would necessarily give me like words, but images, maybe feelings.
So you would get a return signal reaching out with this spell, and I guess the singular feeling or word that you would get is wait.
Okay. Not coming from Sierra.
No.
Okay. Sierra.
Turns around.
Get back. Something on the other side.
She looks over at the rocks, looks over at you, looks at the rest of the party, and begins slowly walking back towards you. Explain?
He'll just hold up the lute and start playing small notes. Magic.
Everyone give me a quick perception check. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, well, Thor's Thor. That's fine.
Still Thor.
Yep. So, Valorant, are you still mounted on Belgrees, I'm assuming, at this point?
Probably gonna slide down from the saddle right about now.
Okay.
And-
so as you... yeah.
No, just kind of moving toward the front, brandishing my weapon.
So as you're kind of listening idly to Jarek and Sierra going back, pulling your weapon out, kind of making sure there's nothing wrong with the situation, as you kind of reach out and listen, you distinctly hear kind of hushed, labored breathing. This kind of drifting from about maybe 60, 50 feet in front of you.
We're being watched. I hear it. In Dwarven.
Comment. Okay, Dwarven. Okay. She kind of look over at you, look over at Jarek. She's like, I don't know what you're sensing.
I hear breathing.
So as everyone stops, kind of listening out as Valorant points it out, giving it a few seconds, you hear that breathing, all of you, very low, very quiet. And as you're all kind of staying silent, you hear multiple sources of the breathing, and it appears to be getting very slowly, gradually louder and louder.
Valorant says, "They're coming," and then flourishes his glaive.
Sierra's gonna like look over at Jarek and go, "Protect wagon."
Rolly would cast Spiritual Guardians.
Okay. And then Sierra would like glance around the wagon to Terry and be like silently motioning him to be here. At this point, everyone roll me initiative. Switch this. Should be here. Okay, let me make sure I got this right. So, Valorn, you have dismounted. You're here. Jarek is driving the wagon. Sierra, then we'll just say that's roughly the situation. Terry's approaching the back of the wagon. Okay, let's see what we got for initiative. Who's highest? Thor?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Thor is 20. What's next? Jarek at 15. And then Rolly 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then Valorant down at 1. Oof. Okay. Whoopsies. Let's see what Sierra gets. Okay. So you've cast Spiritual Guardians before combat starts, correct, Reb?
Yeah, like, I don't know how long it was.
It was like seconds.
Yeah, so it's a 10-minute spell.
Okay. Okay. Let me go ahead and shoot and okay. So as you were all speaking and preparing, Rolly, you building up your spiritual guardians around you, everyone kind of listening to the breathing, all of a sudden, in one like kind of big sparkling display, the cave-in in front of you disappears, very much appearing to have been some sort of massive illusion as the wall just vanishes, and standing 20 or 30 feet away from you is a group of the Quaggas that you've heard about, their teeth bared, their eyes narrowed at you, their whole bodies kind of craned and like ready to pounce. They were clearly watching you, slowly getting closer and closer through the illusion as you approached. And as like everyone begins to kind of prepare, realizing that the ambush is to be sprung, the illusion drops and they come pounding forward. So Thor, or Rob, you would be up with Jarek. You're on deck after Thor. Are you muted, Rob?
Sorry. With Thor's sword, will the shards go through anything, or do they?
Yeah, they go through everything in 30 feet, and then we'll come back through that stuff with 30 feet as well. So.
Okay. So. There we go. All right. So Thor is going to run here. He's going to rage.
You should have control over him, I think.
Yeah, I
do that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to rage.
Mm-hmm.
I just, and then he's going to run here.
Mm-hmm.
And attack the one right in front of him.
Okay.
So that will be 8 to hit.
An 8 to hit?
Yeah, plus 8 to hit. So let me, oh, yeah, there's damage if it. It's not letting me roll off of his character sheet.
You can always roll a 20 and then add the bonus if you need to.
So anyway, does an 11 hit?
11 does not hit. That is a miss.
Okay, and then when they come out, do they come out in a cone?
What?
When the shards come out?
You're facing away from your mic, so it's not picking up yet.
Alright, when they come out, do they come out in cone or straight line?
It's a straight line, 30 feet and then 30 feet back.
Alright, so, sorry, I'm learning Thor real quick. So,
No, you're good.
if I do this, will it...
I could say you could reasonably run a line through, like, these 4. It's probably the best way to hit the most.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Or I'll try. And, so
you roll an attack for each target that you hit, so you'd be rolling 4 attack die.
okay. So,
And he only adds his dex modifier to these rolls versus his normal modifier.
okay, so his dex modifier is D20 plus 2?
Yep.
Okay. Right. So that'll be 4 of those. Let me do that.
Mm-hmm. $11, 20. Yeah, that's 1 hit. Ooh, critical. Nice.
Okay.
So that's 1 hit and 1 critical hit.
All right. So, great. Of course, I just clicked out of roll 20. Sorry, guys.
You're good, brother.
So let's see here. Is it just in order of the rolls? Like, I guess the first one missed.
Mm-hmm.
This one.
Second one hit, yeah, and then the last one got the critical, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, that's damage for the first one.
Okay, so that's 8 to him.
And then how do the critical hits work for maybe?
You roll the dice, and then you just double the dice, not the modifier. So just go ahead and roll it, and we can figure out the math. So without the modifier, that's 8, so you would double it. So that would be 16 on the dice, and then plus 2, so it would be 18 total.
Yeah.
Am I doing that math right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So,
and then,
yeah, then you can draw it back, do the same thing.
yeah, and then whoop, bring it back. So I got to roll it again.
Yep.
All right. Ah, dang it. Okay, so
Okay, that's a hit. That's a miss. Miss.
And a hit.
And a hit, yep.
So it hit the last one.
The
that
first
got
one,
critical,
and yeah, the last one.
and it hit the first one. All right.
Mhm.
So roll damage for both of those.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 12 for that one. Nice. And okay, Jesus, yeah. Daniel is gonna be jealous, I'm sure. Okay. So then this guy would get bloodied, and that should be it, correct, sir? Anything else?
I forgot to mention, Rolly had spiritual guardians already.
Yeah. So, well, it's when they end their turn or when they enter it, and when you cast it, they're technically entering it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the wisdom save was 16? Okay. Let me check for these 3 guys. They do fail it, so they would take 14 radiant damage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so then this first one would also be bloodied. Okay. So, I'll go through that real quick. As the illusion drops, Rolly, you see your spiritual guardians who had kind of like assumed that the wall was solid and hadn't even tried going through it. Now with the area open to them, kind of like pour through this like small gap with the the quaggas that are making, and beginning, beating at their knees, jumping on top of them, smacking them with their mugs. They're kind of already beginning to push back a little bit, staring at these strange creatures. Thor running up, goes into a slash, but misses due to the fact that they're already kind of trying to defensively move from the spiritual guardians. Angry Thor then releases the ability of his sword, having it break into the many shards and shoot into the massive enemies. You see various quaggas duck and dive, some of the shards going through their arms and leaving giant gashes in their bodies before it comes back, dealing even more damage. Thor, finally satisfied that his weapon did what it was supposed to do, locks the blade back in place and finishes his turn. So now we are to Jarek, with Sears coming up next.
I think probably go after to there.
Mm-hmm.
And drawing forth a little glimmer of light from his stomach, he'll fling out a shard at this guy.
Okay.
And he will need to make a intelligence saving throw of 14.
Okay, he succeeds.
Let me see if that does half damage, sorry.
You're good.
No, takes nothing. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Look over at Rowley and you really got him, champ, and give him some bardic inspiration.
Okay.
And that'll be it.
Okay. So as Jarek hops down from the wagon, quickly getting sorted into this combat, not quite ready for, shuffling his hands around his belly, runs up, throws the spell with the quagga just kind of looking up at him in this weird dazed look, seemingly having no effect, as Jarek then relies on his stunt inspiration to drive forward the party. So we're now to Syrah. So as the illusion drops, she's glancing around, realizes what's happening before her, kind of cursing under her breath, and very quickly falling into the soldier intuition that she has, determined to not lose another party member, and goes charging forward. I'm gonna go ahead and grab her stuff. Okay. 25 feet. She's gonna go here, and then she is going to use her always surrounded feat, where she basically attacks in a giant circle without hitting Thor, because she's nice. So that's going to be a miss and a hit. She's going to deal 6. Okay. So she goes charging forward, very much not pleased about being surprised in such a fashion, grabbing the great axe from her back that again seems way too large for a dwarf of her size, but wielding it with a finesse that kind of surprises you all. She jumps forward in front of the quaggas and just begins kind of wildly swinging these giant arcs, missing the first one as it kind of ducks back, and the second one almost kind of leaning in, interested about this weird motion, gets caught on the side of the face, a large gash kind of scraping up its cheek, leaving blood kind of spewing through the air. As she lands a blow, turns around and kind of steadies herself in front of the enemies. So he would take 6 damage. And we are now down to the orange boys, and then Rolly, you were on deck. So let's see, what are they going to do? So Spiritual Guardians is active, so they move in, they get hit by that. Let's see if they're smart enough to realize. Okay. Okay. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 5, 10, 15. Oh, Sierra would have gotten an attack opportunity. Let me do that real quick. Okay, she's gonna hit.
And me too. Me as well.
Yeah, because within your reach. Yeah, so she is going to deal 12 as he runs by. You want to go ahead and do your Polar Mastery thing, sir? Oh, you already did. Okay, that is a hit. Jesus, okay. So as this quagga begins to... Oh, also has to roll for the Spiritual Guardians. Forgot about that. And it's going to fail, which was 14 damage is what it's at, right, Rolly? I'll take that as a yes. Okay. And then he's also going to take 14. Okay. So the Quaggoth kind of trying to run around the side, realizing that it's charging forward into this weird concoction of dwarves and spiritual dwarves, races towards Jarek, kind of seeing him at like the outlying section of the party in the back, hoping that this is a much juicier and meatier target for all intents and purposes, racing towards you, getting slashed by Seer as it runs by, Valoran kind of darting his glaive over your head as it like squares up with you, landing his own blow. It's already bleeding, bloodied, bruises and cuts all over its face as it's like, as the blood trails into its mouth and kind of stains its teeth, this like maroon color, it just snarls up at you, Jarek, and then goes to lunge at you. What's your AC, sir?
A very solid 13.
Okay. That is, oh no, he gets, let me check real quick. Yes. Okay, so he gets advantage. That's going to be a hit. And then he is going to do, oh, he gets multi-attack too. Okay, give me 1 second. So then his second attack.
I need you to resolve that first attack real quick.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that then. So it would be 4, 3, and he gets 3, 4, 7, 14 points of damage.
Okay, and if my count is correct, he has been hit 3 times, 2 spiritual guardians, and 1 Valoran, correct?
He's been hit by the spiritual guardians, Syrah, and Val.
Okay, so you said 13 damage or 18?
14.
14. Okay. After the attack, I am going to use my reaction to hellishly rebuke him at 3rd level.
Okay.
If he would be so kind as to make a dex saving throw of 14.
Okay. He fails. So what happens?
I'm going to throw a 4d10 at him.
Oh, do you want to take that first one?
I'll take that first one.
Okay. Okay. So do you take this damage, or do you...
Oh, I take the damage. My hope is that will kill him and I won't take the second attack.
Explain to me what your hellish rebuke looks like.
So after, taking a good swipe, Jarek will go, "That's worse than my belly lint," and just fling his hand forward from his stomach as flames erupt, and just grasped as tendrils onto this beast. And sink its fiery into its
So as it like darts around the group and squares up with you, it appears to almost like gain more excitement the more injured it is. Its eyes like wild with fury as it like leaps on top of you. You feel the claws begin to like dig at your flesh, and immediately you kind of like whirl around and speak your words, it caring very little what you have to say, until it feels the burning sensation kind of wrapping around its body, almost blasting it off of you, throwing it a few feet away as you see the life kind of leaving its eyes as it travels through the air and then lands on the ground with a thud, vanquishing your foe and removing his second attack. So there you go.
Cough up a little bit of blood after that.
Okay, so we still got the other 4 boys. I'll have 2 of them attack Thor and 2 of them attack Syrah. Makes the most sense. So Thor's AC is 17, correct, Rob? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. No?
Well,
oh, if he uses the pendant, it's 19. The little magical pendant that he has.
okay, so I'm seeing 15 armor class. Okay, so Onyx Shard Pendant.
Is it 15? I might be wrong. Is it 15 and then 17 if he uses the amulet?
He doesn't have a shield anymore, so yeah, I think it's 15.
Ah, okay, so it is 15.
The Onyx Shield Pendant.
You have to activate that as a bonus action, I think.
Okay, good to know. So for right now, it's not activated.
So it's 15?
It's 15, so that'll bring him up to a 17.
If you use it, yeah. Okay, first one is a miss. Second one is a miss. That is a hit. That is a hit. So one of the quags are going to hit him, and then Syrah is going to get hit once. Get hit once. Okay. So for Thor, what's their damage? He's going to take a whopping, are you ready for this resistant damage? That's going to be a ton. That's 5 and then 3, so that's 8. He's going to take a whopping 4 damage with his resistance. So, and then Syrah is going to take 7 points of damage. So as the Quaggas get their turn, leaping into the action as the party kind of meets them head on, you see a myriad of limbs and claws and biting and howling kind of filling the direct area in front of Syrah and Thor. But obviously very well versed in the situation such as this, Thor just begins kind of like sweeping some of them aside, almost kind of laughing in the face of danger, as Syrah is like very like devoutly holding up her like the shaft of her great axe, pushing them away, kind of dodging out of the way, attempting to not take damage, as Thor just kind of absorbs it and laughs at it. But that would be their turn, so we are now down to Rolly with Valorant on deck.
Okay. So, Rolly will cast second level Spiritual Hammer right there.
Okay. Spiritual weapon?
Or spiritual weapon, yeah.
Gotcha. Right. Now you're good.
And then I'll go ahead and take a swing at the one that's injured. And that will be +8 to hit. So let's see.
That hits.
Okay. And D8 +5.
That's 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So you summon forth your usual mug, it appearing out of that blue spectral energy before it finds its solid form. And the Quaggas, their eyes still very much intent on the battle ahead of them, doesn't realize the form building behind it, as a big thunk lands on the back of his head, sending his vision blurry for a moment, as your mug lands a very decisive blow into the back of his skull.
And stay right there.
Okay. So we are now down to Valorant, sir.
All right. I got to step between my friends here, casting Divine Favor on myself as I go. And so, as I move up, the glaive begins to sort of shimmer and glow with faint golden light. And I am going to attack the Quagga that's next to Syrah here.
Okay. That would be a hit, sir.
Alright. And the Divine Favor adds
3?
1d4 Radiant.
Okay.
So 10 total.
Okay.
Attack number 2.
That is a hit, sir. Okay, so plus... okay, I was going to say you could use the same roll that you initially rolled for it if you wanted to.
Same roll.
Does it specify that you have to re-roll it each time?
It adds 1d4 to each of my melee attacks.
Okay, so yeah, I guess you would re-roll it then. So, okay. So that would be 13?
13, which is also a crit.
Oh, yeah. So that would double the dice, which was 6. So that would be 16 plus 3, 19 total? Yes, I think so.
Well, that's also a dice.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that would be 6. Let me redo this math. So it would be 12 plus 6 is 18 plus 4 is 24. Correct?
That sounds like a good number.
Okay. You would dispatch your foe with your second attack then.
So stepping forward and just within reach of the glaive, sort of quick jabs with this flashing blade, just sort of perforating the torso of the Quagga before returning to my ready position.
Spurred on by the potential violence that would be inflicted upon your new friend Sira, you like step forth in front of your companions, and very deftly your glaive shoots out, the white light that kind of lingers off the blade, trailing almost like a sparkler on the 4th of July, as you slice and jab, and you just get these small little nicks that the Quaggoth begins to kind of like almost like flinch away from, but isn't quite able to pull away enough before you find a nice decisive jab through the neck, it letting out one more gurgled breath before it like collapses from the strike and falls next to Sira. Sira kind of whipping her head around and kind of give you a little narrowed-eyed look and then returning back to the combat. Anything else, sir?
I've got more movement I may as well take, so that was 5. Let's move here. And that'll be it.
Okay. So now we got the non-colored boys. You guys got so much shit surrounding you. How do they want to do this? Okay, so one's obviously going to step forward to there. Your reaction has refreshed at this point, correct, Valoran? From your last...
Yeah, that's right.
So you would have attack of opportunity because he's moving into your space. Okay, that is a hit. That's just a straight... Okay, got that. Okay, so that's 10. Good to know. And then Spiritual Guardians, which was a 14, if I remember correctly. And I just threw my dice, so we're going to get a different one. He's going to fail that, which I think was 14 points of damage, if I remember this correctly, Rolly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's going to take 14 from that. These poor bastards just running into a brick wall, basically. I guess we'd have there. He would also, because he's the same, so he would take the 14. There and take the 14. I hate Spiritual Guardians. We're gonna teach you a lesson at some point here.
Like the last time I tried to use it?
Yeah, like the last time, yeah. I guess we'll go there and there. Your spiritual weapon doesn't get attack of opportunity, correct? As far as I remember?
It does.
It does? Okay, go ahead and roll me that then. That is a hit.
Okay.
Okay. So as the Quaggoth that you hit initially with the mug, kind of like its head craning forward from the blow, looks back, gets like a little growling noise at it, and almost kind of like pushes it away with its hand, and then goes to ignore it, moving forward. And as it turns back around, the mug lands another blow on the back of its head, just landing it into the dirt. It kind of like twitching every so slightly, as just a little bit of life is left lingering in it before it eventually succumbs to death. But now we get to what they're actually doing. So we'll do 2 on Valoran, 1 on Thor, 1 on Sira. Valoran, what is your AC, sir?
18.
Okay. That's going to be 1 hit from one of them. Okay, so just 1 hit from one of them. Thor is going to get hit twice, and Sira is going to get hit once. Okay, so Valoran, you are taking 6 from the first attack. Oh, your only attack that got to hit you. And then Thor, taking 2 attacks, is going to have 8 and 7. So that's 15. Halving that is 7. So Thor takes 7 damage with his resistance. And Sira takes a whopping 9. Good to know. So as the party kind of like forms a battle line, more or less, preparing to kind of push back the advances of these monstrous creatures, they begin to lash out at you, trying to find any sort of weakness or pushing by any sort of party member that isn't ready for this aggressive, bestial nature that they wield, landing a few blows on a couple of you as everyone continues to kind of like bat them away, holding the line, getting, sunk into combat more or less. As this is all going... Yeah?
Sorry. Can I get an opportunity?
You cut out. Opportunity attack as who?
With Thor on the...
with his sentinel?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. With any of the ones that attacked either him or Valoran?
Or Sira, because... did this one...
No, it is the non-colored Quagga's turn. So the orange ones went earlier. These are the like standard looking ones.
Yeah. I'll attack the one that just right next to me.
Okay.
So that is.
Can you use Sentinel on an attack targeting yourself, or does it have to be an ally?
Rob, I'm sorry, I might have messed up on that one.
Or is it on an ally?
I just
think
haven't.
it would have been.
Yeah. So it's within 5 feet of me. So was there one within?
No, the one touching Thor within his reach was one that attacked Thor. So any of the other ones that attacked everyone else is outside of his reach currently.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. No, you're good. Okay, so as this is all going on, and the party is more or less focusing forward, I guess Jarek and Rolly being a little bit, removed from the direct combat, you begin to hear scraping and clawing and cackling coming from behind you. And then you are going to see... I need to copy and paste a couple of these boys. Quaggas beginning to crawl out of these massive holes in the earth, beginning to move over the rocky terrain, their eyes darting around, coming up from behind the illusionary ambush that was set up. So that is their turn, is just appearing, but they are on the board and coming up behind the wagon, so...
Yo, go get him, Terry!
Yeah, but that is the end of the round, so we are now back up to Thor, with Jarek, you're on deck afterwards.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna move Thor here.
Okay. That would provoke an attack of opportunity from the middle Quaggath because you're moving out of his reach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He would hit. I'm throwing my dice everywhere. And he would take 2 points of damage.
Okay. And then the one that me and Valoran are sandwiching, I'll attack it.
Okay.
Let's see here. So it's +8. All right, 20.
That is a hit.
All right, and then damage is 2d6 plus 5 plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that'll be there we go. So 14 damage,
Okay.
and then
That would put him in the bloodied state.
all right, and then this nice lined up line of oranges. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do Shard's Edge.
Okay.
Stat out again,
Go for that.
and that is.
So it'd be 3 attack rolls with a +2.
All right. So, and we'll just do them 1, 2, 3, nearest,
Yep.
middle, furthest. All right. So, well,
That is a miss.
4,
That is a miss.
and
That is a hit.
all right. And we said that is 3d4 plus 2.
Mhm.
Is that, and it's also plus 2 more since I'm raging, or?
No, I think that's only with strength-based weaponry.
All right. That's right. It says. All right. So 12 points to the guy on the end.
Very nice. Okay, that would also put him down in the bloodied state.
And then I'll pull him back.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing. 3D.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This is probably the most usefulness Thor is ever going to get out of this weapon.
All right. So a 16 on the
That is a hit.
bloodied one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is a miss.
And an 8. So
That is a miss. So you just hit the first one.
yeah, and then that's the same.
Mm-hmm.
2d4. All right. Sorry, I have to manipulate this thing. All right.
Ooh. Okay, so just 3?
3, yeah.
Okay. So as combat begins to get more and more involved, Thor kind of like steps through the line of the Quaggas, kind of like, oh, excuse me, oh, sorry, and then slices at the back of one of them, and then quickly turns to his right, releasing the ability of his sword yet again, as this gleaming green metal from the flames around you go darting through the line. 2 of the Quaggas kind of realizing what's going on at this point, being used to this move, kind of duck out of the way. The last one, kind of like everyone trying to duck and just can't see it coming, gets caught with the first blow, it like letting loose this distressed screaming noise as it looks at the shards running by and doesn't realize that they're coming back, scraping across its face yet again as the shards reconvene back into the blade. It now bleeding from multiple wounds, blood kind of pouring down its face, across its cheek and whatnot, as Thor does what Thor does best. And we are now down to you, Jarek.
Looking around the battlefield, how much plant life am I seeing?
Maybe the occasional mushroom, but kind of like farther away from you. Right now you're kind of standing in the well-traveled part of the road. Off the actual road itself, you can see a little bit of vegetation, but not a ton.
Okay. The earth fire was a moss that burns?
It's a powder that burns.
It's a powder that burns. Okay. Gotcha. In that case, I think Jarek will go ahead and get back up on the cart.
Okay.
Does that take my action?
No, I would just say it might take a little bit more movement, like maybe difficult terrain to get back up, but it wouldn't take an action.
Okay. I'll go ahead and look over to the side at the 2 coming at us. Throw out a few notes from my lute and try and hit them with some dissonant whispers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that target both of them or just one of them?
Just one.
Okay. It succeeds.
It's dang it. Okay. And I believe 6 half. Yeah. So half damage. So 3 damage.
Which one, the north or the south?
Let's go with the north.
Okay. Takes 3 damage.
And just scream out, they're behind us too, we need to get going.
Okay. So as you leap back onto the...
One other thing, and then look over at Valor and you've got a champ, and give him some bardic inspiration as well.
Okay. As you leap back up onto the wagon, trying to deal with the Quaggas that are attempting to flank you and surround you, and calling out to your companions, Sierra, who's next up, looks back at you and sees the Quaggas coming from behind, and she, stares you in the eyes, Jarek, and you hear again in her broken calm, and she goes, "We got this," and then turns back around and attempts to deliver some damage to her foes. Let me make sure I have her stuff down right. Because that's not back yet. Okay, so she's just going to try and lash out at the one in front of her. That's going to be a hit. And that's going to be a hit. So she is going to do... Okay. So, having one of the combatants that was focused on her, or at least nearby her, dispatched by Valor and kind of giving him that almost teasingly annoyed look, As she like turns back around, Valor now moving to another part of the battlefield. You see her almost cleave one of the Quaggas in two with her first strike. It like going down to one knee, its eyes kind of growing foggy as like the limbs of the creature begin to move sluggishly, and then she cleaves the axe into its skull, splitting it in two, like big spurt of blood kind of erupting into the air. And you, I guess Jarek, who'd be witnessing the majority of this, you would see her turn around to where Valorant was, curse a little bit, and then turn back around to face the combatants in front of her, but she would dispatch the one directly to her north. And then it is now Orange Boys. Rolly still has his Spiritual Guardians up. They don't roll for that until the end of their turn, but their movement speed is halved when inside the aura, correct?
They if they start their turn.
Oh, it's the beginning? Okay. Good to know.
I want to say.
The DC is 14, correct? I'm remembering that right?
Well, it's a wisdom of 16.
16, okay.
And
And I think you rolled 14 damage for it is what we're going off of.
yeah.
They're gonna fail. These poor bastards.
Yeah, when their turn starts there.
Yeah. Okay, so both the orange Quaggas that start their turn here will take the damage. They fail, making the other one bloodied. And what's their speed? Let me check real quick. So they have 15 feet? Okay. Yeah. Realizing the source of the spiritual guardians, this one's probably going to try and run up to you, Rob, without provoking attack opportunity because he's not leaving Sierra's range. And then try to hit you. What is your AC, sir?
It is 18.
18. Okay. That is a hit. That is 2 hits. Okay.
And then what I got to roll to...
let's see what the damage is, because it depending on how much damage he does, it changes what you might have to roll. So that is 4 plus 2, that's 7. Plus 5.
What damage is it?
What?
What kind of damage is it?
It is going to be slashing.
I'm not wearing my plate. Okay.
Yeah. And then the second one is going to do 4, 8, 13. Okay, so here's one thing that I'm not sure of. James, you might have to correct me on this. When you are taking damage that is attacking against your concentration, if you take multiple attacks on one round, do they combine to the total damage you take, or is it the first attack is what tries to break your concentration? Okay, so it's either half damage or 10, correct?
Whichever is higher.
Yeah, okay, so it would just be 10, because half damage wouldn't beat that. So you just have to roll a Constitution saving throw above a 10, correct?
Right.
Okay. I remembered it. Oh, exciting.
You do have inspiration if necessary.
It's 10 or higher?
Yeah. Ooh.
I used my inspiration on that.
Yeah, you can.
All right. That's 1d6.
1d8 now, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Just don't roll a 1. Okay, there you go. So as this Quagga kind of breaks through the line and begins just, pouncing on top of you, his claws slashing away, very much missing the armor that you have now sent in for repairs as his claws dig through the chainmail, landing decisive blows. As you feel your concentration or your hold on your spell begin to slip, some of the spiritual guardians, like at the edge of your aura, kind of almost like coming in and out of focus as you attempt to hold true. You feel a small pit in your stomach as you know that you're not going to be able to hold on, but then you remember the connection that you wield with your pal Jarek, this bard who has stood tall and been beaten down by monsters over and over again, and if Jarek can do it, so can Rolly, and you bring forth the energy to hold the spell up, using your companionship as a beacon of hope in the dark, dim light of the Dwarven highways, holding up your spiritual guardians. But you do take 26 points of damage, so...
How many times was he hit?
Twice.
He's got another roll to do.
Oh! Yes, correct.
It's each time.
Yes, so the second time you attack, you also now, again, have to roll above a 10 with a con save.
like you, James.
You just gotta play it fair.
There'll be a time when
Okay.
I call him on it. So.
No, but you got that one handily. So yes, with your renewed vigor, you are able to hold your second attack as well. Okay, so that was just that one. The other one is going to attack Thor. Yeah. So, which is still 15 AC, correct? So that's going to be a hit. Oh yeah, that's going to be 2 hits. First one, 6, 9 plus 14. You're going to take 10 damage from the first one. I'm giving you the resisted ones, like the actual damage he's taking. And then the second one, he takes 6 points of damage. So he takes 16 total. So, yes, it's Thor. Yeah.
Thor took 6 more points.
Yeah. The first one was 10 and the second one was 6. So he took a total of 16 points of damage.
After.
I'm giving you the damage that he gets with his resistance.
Wow. Okay, so you got hit hard.
Yeah. So as Thor is now kind of stood surrounded by enemies, again, finding himself very much in his element, begins feeling these clawing, biting scratches on his back, almost kind of ignoring them as he feels like digging deeper and deeper until eventually the pain begins to move through him and he like turns his attention to being beaten on, basically. But that would be them. So we are now down to Rolly with Valorant. You are on deck.
Okay. I'm gonna look at the one that just beat the crap out of me,
Mm-hmm.
and then grin and grab him. Does he have a crotch?
It's covered by fur, but sure, you can reach and see what's down there.
Yeah. I'd grab that and, in typical Rolly fashion,
Mm-hmm.
cast Inflict Wounds.
Okay.
Level 1.
Is that a save or an attack roll?
Plus 8. Attack roll.
And that is a hit.
Alright. And that is... Let me see here. Did that roll?
Damn. So,
I don't know why it rolled all those dice. It's 3d10. So, does that
you
have
said
a
it was
break?
3d10?
3d10.
Yeah, that's right. Rolled a 4, a 10, and a 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
So,
I get what you're
as...
talking about, Rob. It does like double damage dice for some reason.
Yeah.
But as it, like, jumps on top of you and you're able to hold your concentration, you now giving back the medicine that it dished. You reach down and for a brief moment, you're surprised. This is not a male. But you inflict the wounds anyway, sending forth your energy, and you see it scream and almost like clawing at its own body, its face like staring up at the stone as it lets out this wailing, horrible pain scream. And as its body is racked by this pain, you see it like almost crumple in on itself, the life quickly leaving its body as it just collapses down in front of you, its tongue hanging out of the side of its mouth as you dispose of this enemy.
And then, as a bonus action, look over at Thor and yell at him to hang in there. Sure. Let's see, healing word at first level.
Okay. Very nice.
9. Let's see. And then I'll bring the mug down to the orange. I'll actually
Oh, you cut it against her.
I'll bring it
down here.
Right, and then attack the orange one.
Okay.
And
You're on act.
You would have advantage on this, but you hit anyway, so.
I'll roll again just to see if it...
Yeah. Okay, so you hit.
9.
13? Okay. So as you bring your mug back around, most of the time this mug just being ignored throughout combat as, the actual standing physical enemies take the center stage, but it just moves through everybody, leaping over things, darting between people, and as it kind of gets into position, the Quaggoth purely focused on Thor's form, you just hear this loud crack as the mug breaks its jaw, send its face sending to the side, and then all of a sudden the body kind of crumpling and falling as you begin to hear it gurgling on its last breath, now a heap at Thor's feet. That should be a song. But anyway, is that all you got, sir? Okay, we're down to you, Valoran.
Alright, so first I'll attack the one directly to my north.
Mm-hmm.
Am I flanking that with Thor?
Which one did it attack last? Oh, yeah, that attacked Thor last, so yes, you would be flanking it.
Okay.
Okay, that is a hit. Is that plus anything, or just... Okay. So that's 8 total?
Yep.
Okay, you would easily dispatch that foe.
Alright, it dies? Great.
Yep.
Now let's attack the one directly to my west.
East?
Yeah, that's east.
That is a hit. Okay. 9 total.
And the back end.
That is a hit. Again, 9 total.
Yeah.
Okay. So he is now down to bloodied. So easily killing one and quickly rotating your attention to the east. You then slice twice with your glaive, first landing a decisive... No, I can't stop saying decisive. A deep blow across his chest before you bring back the bludgeoning side of your glaive and clap him across the face, both kind of trailing that eternally white light from your weapon as it leaves behind this almost like residual glowing, dull bit of flesh before it kind of seeps into his skin. You do deliver 2 very hefty blows, but you do not slay your combatant. Anything else, sir?
No, I'm going to stay put.
Okay. Okay, now it's Quaggoth Boy's turns. Okay. I don't really think they're going to do a lot of moving. The ones from the hole... I forgot about Terry. Terry's going to hop in the back of the wagon. I forgot to make that move. Yeah, I think we're going to go and do that. And then... Don't laugh at my poor boy. How far... Okay.
Oh no, Terry.
Well,
You guys are evil.
Yeah, don't worry about him. He'll be fine.
Okay, so the 2 from your east quickly run to the back of the wagon. They're already beginning to try and jump into the back with Terry as he's desperately trying to fend them off. Then the 2 from the south, you hear them pounding over the earth as they jump over all the sparse terrain and the rubble that has been formed from, not centuries, but years and years of decay down in the tunnels. And at their full speed, they come barreling into the wagon, one of them diving into the back near Sparky, the other one trying to run around to the side as 4 of them quickly descend onto the wagon. 2 of them are going to attack Terry. He is going to get hit once and twice. He is going to take 8 damage. Okay. So as the 2 are grabbing at Terry's leg, their claws are ripping through his pants and leaving these long, symmetrical, bloody trails down his calf as he is being grabbed at over and over again as he is desperately trying to use the wagon mostly as cover. And then the ones up here, Valoran, I'm going to see... they're starting their turn in the Spiritual Guardian. Let me do that. They succeed! Is that half damage then?
Yeah.
I guess that's 7. Okay. So that one takes 7 and is bloodied. I hit the wrong button. And this one takes 7 and is also bloodied. Okay. So Valoran, you're going to get attacked by both of the ones to your east, and Seer's going to get attacked by the one to her west. What HP is this one at? Okay. Oof. Your AC was 18, Valoran? Okay. You're going to get hit twice. You're going to take 13 points of damage, sir. Oh, because you have your
the divine favor.
Yep.
I'll
Okay.
use
So that.
inspiration on that.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff. And Sierra's going to get attacked. She's going to get hit 0 times, as she is now determined to finish the combat as the most experienced warrior of the group. She's very well versed in combating this singular Quaggoth that is now facing her. I think that's all their movements and turns. Yep. So we are now back up at the beginning with Thor. Jarek, you are up next.
You said I got hit twice.
Yes.
All right. So I.
Did you just roll 2 natural ones?
Yeah, I did.
Wow. Damn.
It wasn't.
Okay.
Wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be. Okay.
I'm glad that those were eaten up with a basic Constitution save for that.
Yeah. You know what? It's not the biggest loss. It'll be
yeah.
alright.
Yeah.
How much damage did you take, bro?
Total of like 13.
Mhm.
But I failed 2 DC 10 con saves.
Yeah, I know the feeling, just not this game.
Okay. But yes, we are now to Thor and then Jarek.
Let's see here. So where is Sparky right now? Is he inside?
Yeah, Sparky is in the wagon guarding Adam.
Is anything targeting him right now, or?
So the Quaggas spent their turn dashing to the wagon. There is one in the wagon with Terry and Sparky, and the other 3 are like trying to get at Terry from the back. So.
Okay.
And
Or- and
Jarek,
Thor
you.
is 30 or 40?
He's 40 feet of movement, I think. Yeah. But Jarek, you'd be aware of how delicate Sparky's life is.
You realize the second that you moved any of those bastards close to me, my first thought was for Sparky.
Okay, so Thor will be able to move to here. And
He would get an attack of opportunity from the one that was next to him, correct?
he wasn't next to anybody, was he?
He was right there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. There or there, I can't remember where he moved him, but let me do that attack. That would be a miss, so he's fine.
And as he runs by Val, he'll slap him and tell him, "You got this," or however Thor talks. And then I'll attack the one that is right in line here. Or can I reach
Okay.
one in the can I reach? Or
Yeah, I would say you could reach the one in the wagon.
okay, then I'll attack that one.
Okay. You're muted or not being picked up, one of the 2.
This mic was working before we started playing.
I think it's because we switched your noise cancellation and now the threshold's
Oh, yeah.
off,
Okay.
but that's fine.
Okay. Is this okay? You hear me all right?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
So anyway, 20 plus 8. All that for a 10. Okay.
Okay, that would miss.
And then this line here, I'm gonna do some more Shard's Edge action.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3d20 plus 2.
First one hits. Second one crits. No, we're gonna get all 3. Oh, third one hits.
All right.
Wow. Daniel's gonna be pissed.
All right. It's a 3d4. 9.
Okay, so it's 9 on the first one.
The second one is the crit.
Yep. So that would be 18 total.
Okay. And the last one.
10. Okie dokie.
All right, and then we'll bring those suckers back.
This is the last charge of the weapon too, right?
He has 4 charges on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this will be the third
Okay.
step. So coming back in reverse order now.
Yep. That's a miss.
Hit
Hit.
and hit.
Hit. Okay.
All right, and then I think the coming back is just a simple 2d.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the first one. 7
Okay. That would make this one bloodied.
and 4.
Okay.
All right.
Good stuff. So, as Thor leaves the combat that he's currently in, a few kind of stray swipes coming from the quagga that was next to him, he goes running to the back of the wagon, drawing his sword out, slashing at the one in the wagon, but then missing, and realizing that for once, Shard's Edge is actually playing nice with them, and he releases the shards into the line yet again, watching the bits of metal basically just barrel through these masses of flesh, dealing significant damage for the first time since he's really used this weapon, and then bringing it back, it sees a few more bits of blood spray coming back towards him as it rebuilds itself into the sword, and then that would be your turn, correct? Anything else? Okay, Jarek, it is your turn, sir.
Seeing that Sparky is in imminent danger, Jarek would pull up his lute almost like a fiddle and draw the rapier to just screech across the strings and hit this thing with some dissonant whispers of 2nd level.
Okay.
Wisdom save of 14.
14. Hey, come on, buddy. He succeeds.
Okay. 8 damage at least.
Okay.
And as a bonus action, oh jeez, look at Sparky and fly fast, you fool, and give him some bardic
Inspiration. Okay. We'll go ahead and let Sparky go on your turn because he didn't get put in the initiative order. He is... The reason I'm not letting you or having you dictate his movements this time is because he is guarding Adam to the bitter end. He's just going to try and whack the shit out of this thing with this little shard of wood. Let's see how he does. He's going to use that inspiration.
the D8.
Ooh, he just hits. And he is going to deal a whopping, I hope you all are ready for this, 1 point of damage. So, looking up at you as you draw your rapier across the lute, kind of like eyes going wide with excitement as he is like thrown into actual combat for the first time since he's been with the group. He turns around with a look of determination on his eye. You see him kind of like re-gripping, like almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like squeezing the shard in his grip before he just, and just like hits the thing on the knee. You hear this very dull thud as he makes contact, and he pulls it back again. The quagga's like basically just ignoring whatever just happened. So after Jarek, we are now down to Syrah. Or is there anything else? That was your bonus action, correct, sir?
Yeah, that's everything.
Oh.
Okay.
Wait, no.
I guess Syrah's just gonna hit the one in front of her because there's nothing more she can really. Well, actually, what's her speed? Yeah. She's going to take the attack of opportunity, run back to the wagon, and attempt to slay the one in the wagon. So the attack opportunity is going to hit her. She's going to take 6 points of damage. Okay. And then she's going to try and attack the one in the cart. That is a hit. That is a hit. Oh, come on, Sira. You can do it. What is your... I need to check her bonus real quick. That's 4. That is 12 and 13. A total of 25? Jesus Christ. So that is going to certainly make him bloody. So, as Sira realizes the wagon is being surrounded by a group of flanking Quaggas, she, disregards the one in front of her, clearly more interested in guarding any more potential threat to the companions of the group. She goes charging back to the wagon, her great axe in hand, and the cloth covering of the wagon kind of is obscuring a bit of what's going on inside, but there's almost the silhouette, or at least the outline of one of the Quaggas pushed against the fabric, and you see her just throw her blade into the cloth, finding purchase in the beast beneath it, and then pulling back and throwing another hefty blow through the cloth, leaving 2 rather large slices through this very nice covering that Valorn purchased for you all, but for a good purpose, dealing significant blows to the Quaggath inside, as you hear it kind of screaming in protest. And then we are down to the orange Quaggaths, which are all dead. So now we are to Rolly with Valorn coming up.
Okay. Can my spiritual guardian, or spiritual weapon rather, can it go through that cut and go next to Sparky?
Sure, yeah. Okay. Or I could just go through the big entrance in the front of the wagon. But, yeah, put it there.
Sure. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to turn and look at the one up here. Mm-hmm. And we will do... I'll do Toll the Dead. It's a wisdom save of 16.
Okay. He fails.
All right.
You get a bonus because he's already injured, correct?
Yeah, and I just rolled wait a minute. So, yeah, it was supposed to roll 2d12. It just rolled.
I'll just roll another one then and then add it to it.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'll take the first 12 and then the 1 from the next roll. So that we're taking your 2 first rolls. Would that be 13?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you see it kind of scratching at Sira as she runs away, you bringing forth the bell that you've seen basically melt enemies before, and you see it wince and flinch into itself, its eyes sealing shut as it hears that racket over and over again in its mind, curling and curling deeper into itself. You see bits of black ichor kind of trailing from its ears, getting mixed into the white fur of the creature, certainly dealing damage, but not quite dealing the killing blow.
Okay. And then I'll move. I'll move here.
Okay. So they would all have to do Sacred Guardians or Spiritual Guardians?
Yeah. So when they start their turn.
And you still haven't attacked with your mug yet, correct?
And that one I'm going to attack here.
Okay. They fail Spiritual Guardians. That's 14 points of damage. Mm-hmm. So that is going to get rid of this man. Bring this guy down. I think you might have them all bloodied. Let me double check. Yep, he is bloodied. He is bloodied. So, obviously not having used your spiritual weapon yet, having your spiritual guardians kind of deal the first wave of damage, You see the one that is now, like, creating this muck in the back of the cart, kind of lashing out at Sparky and Terry, like sending bits of the content on the inside scattering. You go running by, seeing some of the spectral dwarves kind of leaping into the wagon with all the commotion, and it's almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon where you see like limbs and arms and weapons kind of like jutting out of the cloth as this big commotion sounds in the back, and the spiritual guardian dwarves leap out the back of the wagon, big smiles on their face as they leave a dead Quaggoth behind, then, ravishing through the other three at the back, dealing the significant damage to all of them as well. So you still have your spiritual weapon. I don't know how much movement it has left, but...
I'm going to bring it down to right there.
Okay. That is a hit.
Okay, and...
13?
Yep.
So as this Quaggoth is like trying to climb into the back of the wagon, like one arm kind of up over the ledge, its face kind of peering through the contents, the mug goes sailing through the length of the wagon, kind of catching it right between the eyes, landing this pretty loud, almost gong-like blow as its head goes reaching back and your spiritual weapon kind of hovers in front of it, dealing decent damage, but not putting it down. So we are now to Valoran?
As a bonus action, I want to Word of Healing on Valoran.
Okay.
It takes a bonus action to control spiritual weapon. You don't have one.
I thought it was only to cast it was bonus action, and then you can... Okay.
Oh, you're right. As a bonus action, you can move it.
Okay.
Got it.
So,
You wouldn't mind that one, because it's my skin. My skin now.
Your turn, sir.
Alright. So, everyone has abandoned me. I'm gonna attack the one directly.
Terry is in danger.
First.
Sparky's in danger, dude.
That's gonna be a hit. Okay. That's 7 to him.
And,
does not bring him down.
Is it worth it? No. Second attack.
Okay. That's a hit. Okay. This is the one to your east, correct?
Right.
Okay. That would bring that one down.
And we'll give the one next to him a whack on the side of the head.
That is a miss.
Alright. And I'll stay put. I don't need to incur any attacks.
So realizing that the focus of combat has drastically shifted the other way, kind of leaving you the only one in the initial battle line, a lot of the slayed Quaggoths kind of laying around you in various piles. You continue to add to the pile 2 quick slices with your glaive, sending one down to the floor as you turn to the last one facing you, looking to bonk him as he just kind of like drifts away just enough so your glaive can't connect with the butt end, leaving you to fight the remaining 2 in the front. So we are now to the Quaggoth's turn. Everyone, go ahead, including Thor, give me a intimidation check. $16, $10, ooh, $7, $5. Okay. What's the rough average of that? Like 11 or 10, or even lower? We'll go with 10. 10 seems reasonable, because I don't want to do the math right now. Okay. They are not deterred by the casualties they have sustained and are going to continue to try and finish the job. We'll do an attack on Thor, 2 attacks on Terry. Yes.
They would take a smidge of damage potentially.
I forgot. Let's see how they do. Whoop. Oh, they fail. Oh, no. So this one would go, and this one is lower. I will not specify how low. Okay, well, that changes things. This one move over to Valoran. Oh, because you get your thing. That's a hit. It's like, come on, he's dead now too. You guys happy? Killing my little boys. Well, I'm now left with 2. I guess one will attack Terry, and one will attack Valorant. We'll just see how this goes. Let's see how Terry fares. He's gonna get hit twice and take 16 damage. Ooh, okie dokie. He is still up. It's not looking great. He has an extreme amount of gashes and scrapes and blood kind of trailing down the lower half of him as he is desperately fighting with the last Quaggoth trying to get into the wagon. The one attacking Valorant. What's your AC now, sir?
Still 18.
Oh, he gets a critical hit. Ooh. Whoopsies, and I threw my dice again. Let's get another one. So he's going to deal 15 points of damage.
To who?
To Valorant. So as the combat is more or less kind of reaching the conclusion, the scraps of your enemies kind of trying to flail out any sort of pain that they can inflict before they are sent down to their graves, kind of latches on to Valorant, seeing that he is disposed of so many of his companions, begins just trying to claw at him. You're able to fight off the majority of them, but one very, unlucky blow finds a crease between your armor, digging into your neck, actually pulling a bit of flesh away with its claws as it wrenches forth the blow from your neck and kind of gleams down at you with this twisted snarl. But I think that's all they have, so we are back up to Thor. And Jarek, you're up next. Robert.
Sorry. Doing.
You're good.
Okay. All right. As an action, I will. I'll cast Preserve, or I'll use Channel Divinity on Valorant.
As Thor?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no. Never mind. My bad.
I mean, he's a quick learner, but...
Yeah. Okay, so Thor is going to run here, attack the one to his south. And that's... Let's see here. 20 plus 8.
That's a hit.
D6 plus 5. Alright.
Okay, yeah. That easily disposes of him.
And then he'll yell, Rolly, get down! And then he'll use his last charge of Shard's Edge on the one neck.
It would hit you. It would hit Rolly.
That's fine.
Okay.
Alright, so 2d20.
So the first attack roll will be against you, and then against the Quaggoth.
So many screens open. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good, brother. This is the time that he rolls all critical hits, highest attack dice roll. 13 does not hit you, I imagine. Okay.
So that hit.
17 does hit the Quaggoth, yes.
All right, and that's 34 plus 2. So he does 11 more points.
Okay. And then the attack on the way back?
Yeah, attack on the way back. Yep. 16.
That is a hit.
And then on Rolly, misses. And,
Nice.
2d4
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 more.
Okay. That's Thor's turn, correct?
Well, Thor being Thor, he goes there.
Okay.
End of Thor's turn.
Okay. So as Thor quickly runs by the first Quaggoth, just decapitating him as he moves by, and then turns north, "Get down, Rolly!" and then throwing the sword forward. The shard's kind of just going right over Rolly's head as the Quaggoth stands much taller than himself, piercing into the Quaggoth and then wrenching back through him again, sailing over Rolly's head as it returns back. As it's returning, Thor already clearing the distance between him and the last combatant, bringing us to Jarek.
Seeing the last one standing, Jarek will take up his loot again with the rapier and just drag
This
it
is your
across.
time to shine.
And I'll go ahead and throw that at another second level. If you can give a wisdom save of 14.
I think they've saved against literally every spell you've used this combat.
Yeah, I'm not really very high on the DC save there.
Oh my god, it fails.
Okay, 9 points of psychic damage, and run that bitch away.
How do you want to do this, sir?
So I think Jarek wouldn't just do a single screech across. He would give a full symphony, just... And watching the beast clutch its head before finally blood would just blow out of its ears as its brain entirely vibrates to the point of explosion.
So as you all are kind of winding down, glancing around to see if there are any more threats left, you hear this horrible racket coming from Jarek, this screeching, clawing sound echoing around the cavern around you, and you see the Quaggoth, the last one standing, as it's squaring up with Valorant and Thor. Its eyes begin to almost quiver in their sockets as his body begins to cinch up and curl into itself yet again, and as its hands go to clutch its ears, you see it shaking violently, almost rocking back and forth. Thor, like an eager puppy dog face, lifting up his weapon, waiting for it to run, waiting for the spell effect to really kick in. You just see this violent, sudden burst of blood shooting between its fingers out into the distance of either side of its head as all of its, being just evaporates and it clutters to the floor as Thor just gets a little disappointed frown, kind of lowering his weapon slowly. And that's where we'll take a 10-minute break. As Thor's hopes are dashed, and Jarek deals the final blow, scattering the last Quaggoth down to the ground. Sierra, who is very quickly double-checking everybody, peering into the wagon to see Terry and Sparky are still there, and Adam's body is undisturbed, checking, Jarek and Valorant and Thor, all going around basically one by one, making sure everybody is still whole and standing. Eventually kind of stops in the middle after realizing that everyone's good, looking forward to where the roadblock was, and kind of just shakes her head this is too smart for just Quaggoths. Clearly someone is behind this. And she kind of looks around, expecting to see somebody, but not spotting anything.
I'd like to go ahead and activate the Pocket Sun.
Okay.
Just make sure we have a nice barrier of light just in case that fucking thing comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know if I can ask this well enough, but Sarah, magical beasts?
Looking over at you, choosing her words carefully, she eventually is much intelligence.
Rolly, could you translate for me?
He would like to know exactly. Hold on. What do you want to tell her?
I thought these were beasts, but they had magic, but they didn't fight with any magic. I'm just curious where the hell that spell came from.
I would pass that along to Syrah and also indicate that Jarek also said that she has the loveliest eyes that he's seen all day.
So Sierra, after giving you a very strange look, Jarek, and then back down to Rolly, that is what I'm trying to get at. The Quaggas did not make that illusion, so somebody else must be facilitating this ambush. But if they did not intervene during our spat, then I imagine that we are free to leave.
So, looking around at everyone, we're in relatively bad shape right now. How far away are we from Corntome's Heel?
You've been traveling for about 4 to 6 hours, roughly. You're just getting near the tail end of your first day of travel, leaving Corntombe.
So I guess out of character, I would bring it up to the group, whether we want to go back, heal up, come back again, or try and make camp. Thoughts? Thor's totally gonna agree with whatever I say.
I think we can keep moving. Make a camp. Take a short rest. Take a short rest before we move on from here. Short rest somewhere safe-ish. I don't think we need to go back.
If we can manage a short rest in the wagon, then I can assist with a little bit of hit dice healing.
Well, you guys are only about an hour or two away from camping for the night and getting a long rest. If that changes your decision making.
It does. So, I'd say press forward for an hour, long rest. Thor agrees, totally.
Thor doesn't even want a long rest.
I would like to. I think Jarek, being curious, would at least search around through the bodies to see if any of them were carrying anything worth note, maybe just as simple as a little pendant, something that might suggest how in the world they were casting spells.
I'll save you the roll. Searching over them, there's no clothing, there's no containers, there's nothing in their grip. They very much are just kind of bestial entities. So there isn't much to find except if you want to steal their teeth or their fur or something. Which would take time.
Fair enough.
Yes, so you all are going to trudge forward, a short time longer, and then hunker down in one of those safe room rest stop areas, and then have a long rest for the night.
Yeah, is anybody in the party below half hit points?
So Valorant, at some point before the group mounts up, sort of faces away from the group and puts his left hand on his neck injury, and actually emits a soft glowing yellow light, and then turns back with the wound healed, ready to mount up.
What about Terry, Sierra?
I was gonna have small interaction there. So is everyone done with this scene, more or less?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As things begin to die down and the Quaggas is thrown from the back of the wagon, some of the contents being kind of reorganized by Sparky, again as he kind of guards Adam, Terry would hop out of the wagon, making sure that he isn't offending you all by alluding that he might stay in the wagon, and he approaches you, Rolly, his eyes kind of downcast a little bit, stepping up to you and leaving a few moments of silence before he actually speaks. He's like, I know that you are a man of the mother, and I know that we are not on the best of terms currently, but if you would like to heal some of my wounds, I would appreciate it.
Yes, I will heal you, but first, in combat, what is your specialty?
I really haven't been tested in combat. That isn't really my speciality. I do simple tasks for Gorn. I have a few scrolls that I can use, but nothing too exciting.
So you're saying you don't have a weapon?
That would be the gist of it, yes.
And you're not going to leave us then?
Not unless I want to have Gorn throw me down the shaft.
Alright, well, it seems as if you're stuck with us as much as we're stuck with you, so...
And I would hand him my warhammer. Or I'd have my warhammer and my crossbow.
Which of these are you more or less proficient in?
You kind of like look between the two, see him kind of like mulling it over in his head a little bit. Unless you're going to give me some armor, I think I would prefer the ranged implement.
I'll hand it to him.
I'll heal you now. But it'll be the last time I heal you if you don't join action. No more running away.
I guess that is fair enough, and to attempt to allow us to work better together in the future, since, as you stated, I am stuck with you as much as you are stuck with me. I am sorry for how yesterday went, and I am very remorseful about Adam. I wish it would have gone differently.
As do we all.
And then I will cast... I'll cast Cure Wounds at 3rd level on him.
Okay. Damn. Okay.
That should just about cover him, I think. Yeah, that takes care of his damage.
Yeah. So as you basically use yourself as a vessel for the mother, bestowing your healing energy upon him, you see the various like gashes and bloody marks on his legs begin to kind of seal up and close and heal themselves in a very rapid manner. His almost having been like slouched a little bit with like the pain and the intensity, he kind of like stands up a bit taller as you finish healing him, and he just gives you a very like curt nod, like, "Thank you, Halfbeard."
And then I'll lean forward and I'll grab him by his beard and I'll just pull him in slowly till we're nose to nose, and I'll tell him that
if it were all just dwarves, that would be one thing, but quite frankly, you're embarrassing me and my race. So do something worthwhile the next time we have an enemy in front of us.
I'll let go of his beard.
You see him just kind of like shaking his head and turning away and walking off. Is there anything else the party wants to do before traveling for a small...
And then, Syrah. I'll go over to her and give her a, let's see, 2d8 plus 9. A Cure Wounds at 2nd level.
Okay. Damn, okay.
And then Thor, I'll do a Cure Wounds at 1st level.
Okay. As you heal Syrah, she would kind of turn around, feeling the healing energy kind of put on top of her, looks over at you and kind of like approaches you, putting her hand kind of gently on your shoulder, like grabbing your attention. Halfbeard, you spend quite a bit of time making sure everyone else is all right. Are you okay? I saw that you took a blow during the battle. Do you need anything?
Yes, it's nothing a little sleep won't take care of, but definitely the next time there's ale about, I could use a drink with you.
You see her kind of like pause for a moment and then like looks at the rest of the group, and she almost positions you two side by side to like create a small like partition in front of you two, and you see her bring out this small water skin with a cork kind of pushed inside of it. She's like, I don't recommend this for the faint of heart. It is not your standard ale, but it is alcoholic if you want a sip.
I'm not your standard dwarf. And then I'll take a moderate sip of it.
Okay, give me a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, Jesus, here we go again.
Okay. As you uncork this water skin, and it really only has maybe like 2 or 3 shots worth of alcohol in its small content or size, you get this like almost burnt cinder smell, like you just kind of like stepped over a freshly put out bonfire. Kind of like give it like a little whiff as you wave it under your nose and take a sip. You would quickly realize what you're putting to your lips as soon as it touches your mouth. It is draconic fire whiskey. And it is a very intense burning sensation as it touches your tongue and coats the inside of your mouth. It very much almost feels like someone put like a hot coal in your mouth and then clamped it shut. As you do so, your body kind of like reacting a little bit to it. Syrah's like smiling pretty, I don't know, mischievously to your side. It's like, that is what helps me take the edge off, Halfbeard.
Smooth. That's very smooth. Best, most beautiful eyes I've seen all day, and then I'll stumble away, holding my belly.
So she very discreetly recap it, put it back where she had hidden it, and then returns back to the group. But anything else before you all travel onwards? Okay. So, for all intents and purposes, really just traveling another hour or so to get you out of like the immediate area of where this combat took place is kind of Syrah's goal. Getting you guys like a fair bit down the road and beginning to go on the small curve that the road takes to the west. Finding one of those kind of secluded vault rest stop areas, getting the wagon in, sealing the large stone doors, leaving you in this dimly lit stone box basically. And she begins kind of like getting everybody prepared for a night of rest to travel again the next day. Is there anything that you all want to do at this time?
Probably working a crown session.
Okay. Is this going to be regarding the write-up that you've been looking at?
Yes.
Okay. And then this is the one focusing on Solomon and your father's conversation?
That argument they had, yeah. And I think at this point, like, I have, because we've done this a couple of times now, and I think I've got a routine with Jarek at this point where he sits near me while I do this almost like a therapist and writes down what I say and what I describe and takes notes.
Okay. With the attempts that you've had on this particular memory and with the assistance of Jarek kind of interpreting it, I'll go ahead and give you advantage. Give me perception and then history, both with advantage.
Advantage on all of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, Valorant, how did it feel while you were there? Yes. Yes, your emotions are tied to your memory.
Okay. Hey, Seth, odds or evens?
May the odds be ever not gonna fuck me over.
Okay. So, Valorant, as you step back into the scene that's been described, the kind of entrance room to the manor or the estate that you live in, hearing the small conversation between your mother and, the argument inside the office itself, kind of focusing in, attempting to really get some sort of insight into what the topic may be. The only words or message that you can really discern is kind of the cool, cold, collected voice of Solomon referring to it, and where is it, and where is it hidden. And that is more or less the summary that you can gather.
Okay.
Anything you're doing with that?
I'm doing with it. Other than repeating it to Jarek so he can make note of it.
Okay.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay. So as you're all kind of settling down and, put up your bedrolls, your tents, or whatever situation that you have to, pass the night through, once everyone is more or less prepared, Sierra kind of steps near the cauldron that has earth flame in it, that very slow-moving green flame, illuminating the small space around you all. She, pulls over a small stone, or I guess, a small boulder, sitting down on it, before she kind of, gestures at everybody in the room. She goes, I am, not particularly great with words, but can we all, gather for a moment?
I can tell that you're telling me to come over, but I'm just gonna...
She's saying for us to all get together and for you to stand next to her, Jarek.
Oh god, is she gonna do something to me? Fine, whatever. And I guess he'll sit right next to her.
Okay. So you're all gathering, I'm assuming, Rolly and Valoran? Okay. Yeah, Thor and Terry doing so as well. Sparky staying in the wagon. After you all kind of gathered, Sierra again kind of giving Jarek this odd look as you get a little too close, and she shifts a little bit to the right. Takes a deep breath and a few seconds of silence. We don't mourn those lost in the Legion, but I know that is not a common practice amongst most, and I am not of the mind that Adam cannot be brought back to us, but in the event that he cannot, I feel that stating his importance or his energy is something that I feel obligated to do. And she kind of looks around at you, almost kind of hopeful that someone else might take up what she's trying to talk about, obviously kind of struggling with her words. Jarek, for all intents and purposes, we'll have Thor translate what she's saying to you so you can be involved in this.
Thank you, Sarah. I can play if it is safe.
Being translated both by, her crude comment and Thor as well. She kind of looks over you and, yes, it should be fine.
I think Jarek would pluck the strings without doing full chords or anything, and give Adam a nice eulogy in kind of a chant rather than a song. It would be along the lines of, dependability, upstanding stature, and just give him a few nice points about how he was dependable and actually good at his job, and how already Jarek misses those moments as Adam would set up camp. And as he finishes off, "You will be missed. I hope we can find a way to bring you back, Adam."
Is anybody else partaking before Sierra picks back up?
He made very good ale. I never told him that how good it actually was. For someone unskilled and just starting, he had quite the knack for it, and I didn't want to fluff up his head and make him try any less hard, so told him it needed more work, but in all honesty, it's very good ale.
So you're just kind of like nodding at the various, I guess, moments that you put forth. Kind of looks around you all, unsure what to say, and kind of just like giving everyone like a little head bow, and then turns around to head towards her bedroll, kind of signaling that she's, I don't know, relieved her soul of whatever burden was resting upon it.
Do we have any meat?
I'd say you could have like some dried meat. That makes sense, yeah.
Any bacon?
Probably not.
I'll take what meat I could find and bring a little portion of it into Sparky.
Okay.
Through Jarek and Rolly's eulogies, Valor just sort of listens with his lips pressed into a tight line, and as it seems like the moment is about to pass, he speaks up and says, "No matter what terrible things happened, no matter how he was treated, he kept high spirits. Not sure if any of the rest of us can say that."
You would all notice kind of off to the side, definitely part of the gathering, but not really like including himself. Terry's standing about like 5 or 10 feet away from like the circle, more or less. And you just see him kind of like turn his face away from the party. A hand like comes up, like rubbing his nose a little bit, and then he also too turns away and heads to his own bedroll.
And as he turns away,
Terry.
Yes, Huckbit.
You traveled with Adam in his final days. Is there anything you would like to share?
You see him like look around at you, like almost kind of in shock at being put on the spot or being asked to speak at what more or less is like a makeshift funeral for Adam. Kind of looks around to make sure that he's not stepping out of line again. Kind of like looking down a little bit, thinking, well, Thor was pestering me constantly, and I was getting, I don't know, rather amused about keeping him in the dark, but for the few times that the Goliath was not at my heels, I spoke with Adam briefly. I can't say that I was all too enthused to be traveling with the gnome, but he seemed to be a rather determined little fellow. He liked to ask about Bronshard. He seemed rather interested in how it worked and where I grew up and what it looked like, and he was telling me a bit about the various travels he'd been on, and obviously I have no idea what he's describing. I've never seen sights like that before, but he seemed very full of spirit, and I can respect at least that. Kind of like nodding his head down at the cauldron. And then he takes his leave and goes to his bedroll. But if there is nothing else that you all want to do this evening, you can more or less take a long rest, hunker down, and prepare for another day of travel.
Yeah, before going to bed, I would cast the remainder of my spells and heal. I guess myself, actually, and then go to bed.
Sira's self-care handbook.
Yeah.
Well, okie dokie. So is there anything that you all are doing before departing the next morning? Or any, I don't know, like way that you are moving or traveling, questions to be asked, things of that nature?
I'd actually like to take the time to erase any sign that we've camped here.
Okay.
Using Prestidigitate to clear out maybe ashes, kind of settle the dust so it looks like it hasn't been touched in a little while.
Okay. Simple enough. After you break camp, taking a little bit of time to do that. Anything else?
And I'd like to ride at the head of the party for the remainder of the trip, and just really be as vigilant as I can for looking for anything that may be hidden.
Okay.
Or
Really? Take this, and I'll throw over the pocket sun.
the pocket sun.
Gently hand over the pocket sun.
Gonna slam dunk the pocket sun. Okay.
All right.
Well, if there's nothing more, you all will begin to depart. Rolly, go ahead and give me a perception check since you are keeping an eye out.
Perception or passive?
Perception.
Okay.
Are you turning the light on, or are you just holding the pocket sun?
Apparently, I have it right in front of my face and can't see shit. That roll. No, I would have used my dark vision and had it ready just in case I needed to use it.
Okay. So with the combat from yesterday, you're slightly behind schedule, so you'll probably travel throughout this day, camp again, and then reach West Point like early tomorrow morning. Today is the 27th, yes. So as you all set out, again, getting set into the familiar scene of the Dwarven highways, now having been down here for I think 3 or 4 days at this point, forgetting what the sun feels like, not hearing the normal, symphony of birds and random, nature noises or the wind blowing through that constant, almost like eerie scraping and clattering and random noises like echoing through the various caves that connect to the hallways, drifting into your hearing every so often. Rolly, as you are in front of the party, Sierra kind of stepping side by side with you, keeping her eye out as well. You don't spot anything, out of the ordinary or anything that would cause you any sort of alarm. Maybe about like halfway through the day, you do hear like a small kind of scuttering noise, being kind of used to seeing like rats and smaller creatures, moving around. You don't pay it too much mind except for, putting a glance up in its direction. And you spot this oddly colored squirrel, like it was like red dots on it a little bit, as it kind of darts around the stonework, kind of up maybe like 40 or 50 feet, and then disappearing into one of the cracks in the wall. Sierra kind of noticing it with you, kind of craning her head. She's like, that is, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, out of character here. Thors speak with animals.
Uh-huh. It's a ritual cast, right?
It says casting time 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So you've never seen that before? That's not normal for here.
No, that is a strange-looking rat, but, no, I've not seen that before.
Well, certainly doesn't look too dangerous.
If it doesn't fuck with us, I'm all for it.
Well, I kind of hope it does. Squirrel stew is quite good, actually, and it looks like a squirrel.
She kind of, like, looks at where it disappeared and, like, turns back to you. It's like, squirrel.
Yes, it's like a rat, but cute. Like Jared.
Seems like an apt description. I'll take your word for it. Perhaps, we will see more of them in our brief journeys together.
I think I'm going to be explaining a lot of things to you.
There is one thing I want to ask before we do arrive at West Point Halfbeard. I brought it up to your companion Valoran, but you seem more persuadable. When we get to West Point, I want to attempt to obtain a diamond that is worthy of bringing back Adam. And we have discussed that I do not have the funds, but you do want to pay me still despite my failures. What, if I may ask, is the limit of our treasury in that regard, if that was something that we tried to do?
Well, that's not a decision I can make unilaterally. I will discuss it with the group, but I imagine that if it's within our means, it's simply a matter of paying money. Can't imagine we wouldn't do what we can to bring him back. But like I said, any spell that I can cast, he's already beyond me.
I know, I just want to obtain the material that we may need where it would be cheapest, and then hopefully on the surface there are magicians stronger or more capable that can bring Adam back.
Give me a day to talk with my companions and I'll have an answer for you, certainly before we get to the high end.
Sounds good. I appreciate your help. Continuing traveling with both you and Seer, kind of keeping an eye out. The
Real
rest
quick.
of the day, yeah.
If we see that squirrel again, I want to cast Dispel Magic on it just in case.
Okay. Is this forever or just when you're in the highway?
Just while we're in the highway for now.
Okay. Sounds good.
Wait, can I say forever? And it'll just next time.
If that's your ready action for forever, you'll cast Dispel Magic on a squirrel if you see it.
No, just for the harvest.
Okay. But, yes, the travel would go uneventful. There's a few, moments of, not tension, but just kind of like caution, where you hear a certain noise, you pause, look around, make sure everything's fine, and continue forward. It certainly isn't a pleasant trip, but it is not a violent trip. Occasionally, after hours of things being rather peaceful, you would see Sierra kind of like clutching the medallion that had made the noise when the Shadow Terror had arrived, kind of like almost comforting herself that it's still there. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, you would make it through the rest of the day and get to another kind of rest stop, stopping for the night with the knowledge that you have like an hour or two of travel tomorrow to get to West Point.
With that day, I will utilize sending.
Okay.
To Tormik.
Okay.
Tormik, I know it's not your real name, but you can't answer me on this. Is the ring ready?
You would get back a message. Do you still have my lucky piece?
I could respond. Use that second spell slot. In my pocket, well kept. I hope you were not planning on fooling me.
Get a message back. Don't squeeze it too hard.
I might spend some time examining that thing.
Okay.
I know I already cast Identify on it and it didn't pull anything back.
You want to give me a investigation check?
Yeah. Got out of it.
Okay.
It's a little
So as you pull out this platinum-covered piece for, again, it's basically kind of like a chess game. You're looking at it a bit closer now, kind of examining it, turning it around, kind of like pushing on it a little bit, trying to figure out precisely what he might have meant. As you wield it a bit more, there's like a small, almost like mohawk mane, where it's like a horse piece going from like the top of the head down to like halfway down the back. And as you just apply like a little bit of pressure to it, you feel it kind of bending out of place, much more pliable than you would imagine if it was solid platinum. And as you kind of like glance at it some more, like moving the mane back and forth, you eventually realize as a few cracks begin to form that there is a small layer of clay underneath it that is hollow on the inside, and there's just a small covering of platinum over the piece, as you like almost kind of break it as you examine it.
And thoughts of vengeance and hatred fill Jarek's heart and mind as he goes to bed at night.
Okay.
Does Thor see any message on?
No. I'm trying to remember what his last message to Croak was. I have it written down, but I don't want to try and dig it up. I think he was just asking about like Sir Olim's direction and whatnot again, where again it would probably just come back like, I don't know where he went. Jarek, if you saw Carl with a message, would you go to listen to it or would you leave it?
Well, no, I definitely go for it because it's Croak and that's my town.
Okay. Rolly, give me a dexterity saving throw, and Jarek, give me a dexterity saving throw. I'm just going to see who gets to the message first. Is it different for Thor? Because you rolled his rolling. What's his bonus?
Oh, I rolled for. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
For Thor, it's +2.
Okay, so it'd be 9 versus. Okay, so Jarek gets to it first. So you would get the message. Let me try and word this correctly. Everyone is fine. You want to count this out for me, Jarek? Or one of you? Because, yeah, thank you. Alum heading unknown direction. Still curious what your thoughts are about me. Safe travels.
Travels. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, yeah, plenty. Yeah, I'd send back. Thanks for letting me know. And why do you even need to ask? You are doing great, champ.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else for the evening before you sleep through the last night?
I would go over to Valorant and how long has it been since Adam died? Just 2 days?
He died, and then you spent a night in Corn Tomb. Then you traveled and spent a night on the highway. So it's been like 2, almost 3 days.
Okay. Valorant, in my best estimation, we've got maybe 6 days left before Healer's much more skilled than I can bring him back. So there's really 2 questions here. One, it typically requires a diamond that's quite expensive, about 500 gold pieces, and so that's the first issue, and the second being, do you know of anybody in this region of folk that is a paladin, a healer of some renown?
Let me think.
So this question, as far as Valorant and what you might know, depends on how often you would imagine you traveled to Vilstein. It's kind of up to you, I would say.
I mean, it's like next door. I think it would probably be common enough.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead and give me like a general history check then. Okay. So, Vilstein is a rather large city. It would almost kind of is in a similar size of the capital, the Queen's Coast over in the west. So there's a lot of infrastructure there. There's a lot of business and powerful people there. Not only in like a economic standpoint, but also in like a power level kind of standpoint. You wouldn't know like a particular name or place, but just with your general knowledge of the city and how large it is, you would imagine that this being not a commonplace occurrence, but something that is, understood to be available in the world. If you had to bet on it, probably there'd be some person there that can perform this level of magic.
It's one of folks' centers of power. It's possible to the extent that it's possible anywhere in folk. I don't have a name for you.
Well, then I think that as a first order of business, maybe we should think about finding someone who can do this. Am I right in assuming that the cost would not be prohibitive?
I can't weigh the cost against his life.
Neither can I, but I can't speak for all of us. It's a question that must be asked, as distasteful as it might seem.
Well, if you're asking if we can afford it, we can.
Okay, then we've got enough of an answer for now.
I won't stand in the way.
I mean, his ale was good, but it could be better, and really do need him around.
My reservation is, can it be done?
Of course it can be done. It just can't be done by me yet, and that's what really is pissing me off. If I had applied myself sooner. But yes, it can be done. I've seen it.
Well, then we'll see. We'll see if a person with this power is in Vilstein.
Okay. A quick side note, just so I have all the information. At this point, the only spell that would revive Adam with the time frame is Resurrection, correct?
Or reincarnation.
Raise Dead should do it.
Yeah.
You return a dead creature you touched alive, provided it has been dead no longer than 10 days. If the creature's soul is both willing and at liberty to rejoin, the creature returns to life with 1 hit point. Also neutralizes any poison, cures non-magical diseases that affect the creature at the time it died. Doesn't remove magical diseases, curses, or similar effects if these aren't first removed prior, yada, 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 yada.
So
And
you'd be
it
looking for
requires
someone to cast Raise Dead.
a diamond worth at least 500 gold points.
Okay. Good to know. Okie dokie.
And he's going to be weak for about 4 days.
Yeah.
And he's already a gnome. I mean,
He won't even be able to hold his head up.
Okay, so yes, I'm assuming that conversation kind of takes place as the day is winding down in the little vault rest stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sleeping through potentially your last night in the highway, trying to find good rest as the various noises kind of try to penetrate the stone that you're hiding behind and, dig at your soul. You do get through the evening. Sierra very thankful that a day goes by without the party being attacked or a member being put to rest. So as you sleep through the last night on the highway and wake up in the next morning, you are only about an hour or two from West Point, your final destination in the highway. So, any conversations, comments, things that happened before we get there?
Ask Sarah what sort of reception we should get at West Point. Are there any crazy factions that we're going to be surprised by?
Yes, the Wasnots and the Wingdings, they've been at war for thousands of years. No, as you kind of begin setting off for the day, breaking camp, heading in that general direction, she kind of almost looks a little bit more upbeat to some extent. She's like, well, unlike Corn Tomb, there is a Legion outpost there, the West Legion, so I have someone that I can talk to and pass my notes along to and have someone hopefully go help Corn Tomb with their Quaggoth problem. So at least my reception there will be nice, and I can try to assist in a bit more than I could anywhere else. But besides that, West Point is a rather bustling town of trade and mining. There isn't any outlying factions that I would make you aware of that I feel like would impact our travels.
And also, just we can either do it in character or not, but in the travels, I'd also, I've got Revivify that I need 300 diamond, 300 gold pieces worth of diamond to be able to utilize. I don't currently have. And on me right now, I've got about 85 gold, so of my own personal stash. So I'd also make that a known priority if we wanted to have a revive spell on hand going forward. I would also need that.
Okay. Anything else before you arrive at West Point? Okay. So, making the final leg of your journey, eventually turning the corner to see the gates of West Point kind of off in the distance, you can hear West Point before you can really get a good glimpse of West Point. There is almost this, constant sound of metal scraping against stone, large impacts of heavy machinery kind of ringing through the hallways in these big booming echoes. It is, even when you first hear it, almost kind of an overwhelming mess of industrial noise, and as you get closer and closer, it just gets louder and louder, filling more and more of your senses, to the point where it almost grows kind of uncomfortable. This dull ringing kind of resting in the back of your mind as you approach the gates, getting closer and closer. Eventually you do get to the actual gates, the very familiar straight dwarven architecture, Pale Legion soldiers up on the wall, kind of seeing Sierra as she leads the party forward, welcoming her in very readily, opening the gates, letting the party through, basically just kind of asking rather vague, questions of who you are and why you're here in that, situation. Sierra very quickly after getting in, entering the kind of fort for this for West Point as far as the Legionnaires are concerned, would be I have to turn in some of my notes and make sure that everything is passed along to the fort here, but after this I want to attempt to seek out some diamond merchant or source that we can purchase from. I don't know, it should only take me about an hour or so, but I don't know what you all want to do with your time.
Eat.
Well, I'm sure that you could find a place to eat, or we could find you something in the fort half-baked if you would prefer.
Yes, free food at this point might be a good idea.
Well, if you'd like to just set the wagon up somewhere, I'll have someone come bring you some food.
Let's just have that. Terry, can you take care of the wagon?
Terry kind of looks at you, and then again kind of looks at the rest of the party, unsure if this is acceptable, and then kind of nods slowly. Yes, I can drive the wagon.
Thank you.
So, they would probably pull the wagon up near one of the barracks, where there's again the kind of consistent noise of soldiers marching, plate mail kind of clinking, but again in the background there's just overwhelming sound of mining, industrial clanging, and gears and metal scraping, and just everything that you could possibly relate to some sort of large scale operation is just always kind of assaulting the background. But you're left alone for a fair bit. Eventually some Pale Legion soldiers would bring you some, rations, more or less, earth bread, some soup maybe, just a little bit of like dried meat or something of that nature. Nothing out of the ordinary, but, filling for the very least, getting you fed while you're left to wait.
So, Valoran, quick question for you. I know you and Adam talked about what was in all of that mess in the back of the cart. Do you know if we have rope?
Yes, we have rope. I'm the one that bought it and put it in the wagon.
Oh, great. Okay.
How much rope do you need?
Oh, well, I realized I don't know where mine went. It's been a while. I'm going to get about 50 feet. But if we already have some, then that's perfect.
We'll have to do quite a bit of shopping before we leave town again, but we've got at least 50 feet of rope.
I'm sorry, did we pick that up last time?
Well, Valorant's had 50 feet of rope on him since the day you guys met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had some in my inventory as well.
And I definitely did some shopping when we were in Kraylin before Hormtar, and it's probably time to do some more.
Okay.
We also didn't pay for anything in Corntomb's Heel yet, but we'll work on that later.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I was going to bring that up at the end, but yeah. So the party is left to, discuss and argue about rope for some time. Eventually, Sierra coming back from her duties, more or less, looking upset, but kind of pushing past whatever topic that might be about, and like steering towards you. Well, I'm going into West Point to search out for some diamonds. If you want to come with me, you are welcome to, but if you also want to rest, I understand.
I'll come with you.
Fair enough. Anybody else?
Eric, maybe you could go with them and make sure they get a good price.
Oh. Yeah?
Thor would be, me for.
Okay. So everybody but Valoran would depart with Sierra.
You're going to stay with the wagon.
Okay.
Or else not be able to buy any gems.
Terry vanishes. No, but so yeah, Sierra will lead you all into the town, and after leaving the Pale Legion Fort and getting into the town proper, you can finally see the source of all these noises. It appears that West Point has more or less just been formed by various tunnels and mines and quarries and dig sites, carving out this giant bowl under the earth. This rough cut, varying in height, gentle slope down to the base, and then sloping back up the other side. Potentially, from your rough guess, like 3 or 4 miles across this giant sloping stone curve. And there are rough houses and shops and large buildings just kind of placed haphazardly on this various like jagged, almost like cliff faces throughout this city. The roads are these intricate weaving like switchback back and forth paths where you see carts and dwarves and equipment being hauled up and down. You see massive cranes that are nailed into the ceiling, suspending large bits of equipment that are like digging at the earth consistently, revealing this like rather large, almost impressive display of mechanical intuition of the dwarven race in front of you. Sierra, having been here a couple times before, has at least a general direction to go off of, and begins leading you basically down into the center of the city, where a lot of the actual mining and equipment is going on. Valen, are you doing anything while you're chilling at the wagon?
Just brooding.
Okay.
And,
You want to give me a brooding check? No, I'm kidding.
And brooding and keep an eye on the wagon. Maybe take the inventory and seeing what we need to buy more of.
Okay. Yeah, so as the rest of the party begin to descend into this loud town, going down the various pathways, a few odd glances kind of coming your way as Thor walks by, but not as bad as Corntomb, where people of West Point are used to seeing humans and other various surface races, not incredibly often, but at least most of them kind of know the general idea. But you descend kind of lower and lower. The noise is getting louder and louder to the point where it almost feels like it's like shaking your bones. Like each impact of the heavy equipment, actually shifting the earth beneath you, feeling like you're unsteady on your feet somewhat. But eventually, Sierra kind of guides you into what appears to be a giant warehouse. There's a multitude of dwarves hauling, carts of stone and gems and various minerals in and out of this facility, and brings you into this small, cramped, I guess you would say almost like entrance or office space at the front of this warehouse. Again, I will say that Thor is translating for you, Jarek, because everyone's going to be dwarvish down here. But she goes marching in and begins talking to the dwarf. And she goes back and forth with them for some time, arguing the price and asking about diamonds and what they may have and inventory and all that kind of stuff. Eventually, she would be able to work out the deal that you can buy the worth of a diamond at about 70% its actual value. So if you're going to buy 100 gold worth of diamond, you pay 70 for it. And that's what she kind of gets to and turns around to, the party gathered with her. She's like, I guess that is the best that we can find. I imagine that'd be a much better deal than what we might get at the surface city. I understand if, all your conversations have been correct, that 500 gold is the value that we need for the diamond for Adam. So, at least for the material component, we have a much better price here than on the surface.
Rowley, by any chance, did you happen to grab any money from Valoran?
You're muted.
Not yet. We're negotiating a price right now. You don't need to have money on hand for that.
Understood. Okay. Well, I think that sounds reasonable. Chances are anything we find up in Folk is going to be pretty expensive.
Is there any chance that we could negotiate further to bring it down any more?
You could have a go at it.
How would that work with Jarek negotiating?
Since he's being translated for, I'd probably give him disadvantage because of the disconnect. But if all...
Go ahead.
If all three of you are going at it, I'd probably let you all kind of have a straight roll, letting Jarek just straight roll it as a persuasion.
Okay. Because I think he naturally is better at persuading people than any of the rest of us would be. But
I will say that there is the slim chance if you roll low enough that it could potentially backfire, but that is a slimmer chance than succeeding.
Jarek, would you mind playing a song for Thor?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And give him some bardic inspiration.
And then I would just go over and I would mumble as softly as I could.
And may the mother be with you, and good luck.
And so I'd give him guidance.
Okay.
Let Thor try and negotiate a little further.
Okay. So go ahead and have him roll a persuasion check and then add the appropriate modifiers.
He's got the same as I do. It's +4.
Okay.
So here goes his base roll.
Okay. That's 15.
All right. And then
D8.
you're a D8, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, so he's at 23, and then a D6. 25
Okay.
A D6?
for guidance.
I thought that was a D4.
I think it.
Or did it
go up?
increase with level? Bardic does. I don't know about.
Let me see here. Oh, you're right. It is just a D4. That has been.
I'll let you re-roll it
Yeah,
in case you.
There we go.
Okay. So 25?
Yeah.
Okay. So as Sierra steps away, and both you and Jarek bestow your buffs upon Thor, he seems rather full of himself. You know, not only has he slayed all the beasts in the Underdark and gotten through the highways unscathed, he is a rather deft persuader, a barterer, a businessman of sorts, as he steps forward and begins trying to wield words beyond his comprehension, sometimes causing the dwarf behind the desk to give him a kind of funny look, but somehow consistently stumbling across the right choice of words to really reach into this dwarf's soul. After about 5 or 10 minutes of Thor regaling him with adventures and tales of Adam and what the diamonds would be used for, and the glory of, you know, the world and the safety and, you know, a harmony of all the races, eventually the dwarf kind of just like tries to get him to shut up, eventually making it so it will be a 60% versus 70%. So
Okay. So I would let him know that we'll return with the money.
no, there will be a limit where you cannot buy more than 2,000 gold pieces worth of diamond.
My intention would only be 800 gold piece in value worth of diamonds, so that would be 480 gold total.
Yeah, 800. Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Is he all right with us returning later in the day?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, I would buy the diamonds right now, but I've really got to use the bathroom. Really got to go.
So, Valorant, as you were at the wagon, you know, assessing inventory and, you know, making sure everything goes well, Terry has been keeping his distance a fair bit, only really having touched base with Rolly after the incident. Eventually, after some time passes and you're left alone, Terry would come up and approach you, first just kind of standing about 5 or 10 feet away, silently just kind of like existing near you, but if enough time passes, he would kind of speak up.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge him. I proceed as though I'm alone.
Valorant is your name, yes?
He straightens up and kind of glares over his shoulder and opens his mouth and then stops and then says, "That's right."
I mean, how did you enjoy Bronze Shard?
I did not.
I guess we can relate there. I'm sorry. Never mind. And then he just walks off.
Valorant kind of gapes for a moment and then kind of nods his head to the side and then goes back to what he was doing.
Okay. So, as the rest of the party depart the diamond store, we'll call it K's, you all begin moving back towards the Pale Legion Fort, I assume?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Derek. What you were saying something.
Rolly, just curious, what all are you planning on buying?
Ideally, a single diamond worth 300 gold pieces and another worth 500.
For the one for yourself, should we invest a little bit more to a couple of them just in case?
I mean, if we can have 10 or so laying about, that would be great, but it adds up quickly, but to be
Well,
I don't know how much money we've got.
Well, if we can afford to, if we can get a few more while they're cheaper, then we could sell them later on if we need more money. Or if the Mother protect us, we run into some worse shit.
Well, shit generally isn't lethal. It upsets the stomach, but I'm just messing with you. Yeah, let's talk to the Valor and Thor about it and see what they have to say. I agree with you, though. I think it's a fine idea.
Thor chimes in, just like, why don't you just talk to me right now? I mean, Jarek's the one who's going to need them anyway. Well, why don't he's going to pay for them?
Thor, I don't know if you noticed, but you were taking quite an ass-kicking earlier.
That's what I do.
And then in the fight before that, you were taking quite the ass-kicking, and one day maybe you'll take too much of an ass-kicking before I can get to you.
Well, at least Jarek will be dead before me.
Not really, because he was in the back unscratched.
When does JD ever stay in the cart?
I'm fucking learning, okay?
So, returning back to the Pale Legion fort, falling back into the party's usual demeanor, you meet back up with Valoran, who is just kind of finishing taking stock of the wagon, reassessing where your supplies are at and all that kind of thing, but you all converge back into one space.
What did you find?
Well, you would never believe it, but Thor managed to haggle a dwarven diamond merchant down to 60% of value of diamonds.
I'm really good with my words. I don't know why you have to go out of your way, Rolly, to say that I don't know what I'm doing.
60%?
Yes, Thor, whether you acknowledge it or not, you did very well.
I tried to help, but I can't talk to any of these people, so...
Oh, I'm sorry, Jarek, I forgot.
Maybe, at some point, the three of you could teach me Dwarvish.
I would immediately teach him all 7 of the worst cuss words. We would get down to business.
And how much stock does this merchant have?
He said we could buy no more than about 2,000 gold pieces worth of diamonds. And based on my calculations, we would need for the diamond that could revive Adam, it would be 300 gold pieces we would need to spend, and then a further 180 gold pieces to have a diamond on hand that I could do an immediate resurrection.
So, Valoran doesn't really think about this for very long. He turns back to the wagon and reaches in and drags one of the... I think it's the only chest in the wagon with a lock on it. And he drags it to the end of the wagon and kind of turns it to face him, and there's a very heavy thudding noise as he picks it up and straightens it out in front of him. And he digs in his pockets in his pouch for a key, and he unlocks it. And he actually looks around, like looks over each shoulder, shoves it a little farther into the wagon under the cover, and then flips it open and starts quickly. You can hear clinking of coins. And then he closes the lid, locks it, turns back to Rolly, counts out 120 platinum coins, and says, "Buy him out."
You sure about this?
40% off of diamonds. Buy him out.
This is your area of expertise. I'll go with that. Is everyone okay with that?
That's so much money.
Yes, and it'll be quite worth it to you when I bring you back from the dead.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I just...
Thor just like looks down at the coins and goes like, "That's just 120 silver. That's not a lot of money, JD."
Don't make a show out of it. Just go buy the man out.
Righto. And I'd scoop that into. I'm assuming I would have a pouch that could hold that.
Now you gotta tape it to your chest as you walk through the town. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nipple platinum.
There you go. No, yeah, you could easily put that in like your coin purse. Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to come with me?
I actually do want to see if they have perhaps an apothecary or an herbalist shop around here. Could you ask Sierra? I try, and I don't think it. We just don't connect.
Yeah, Thor would translate. She would come back looking at you. Dwarves, plants, don't mix.
I figured. Okay.
They might have some mushrooms you could have some fun with, but they tend to send some people into a rage.
DM question.
Mm-hmm.
Are mushrooms plants?
Yes.
I'm gonna need that specifically. Okay.
Give me. What are you trying to do with plants? Because you've asked twice now.
Well, I have plant spells, so I need to know if I can use plant-based spells on mushrooms, make them grow.
I would say yes.
Yeah, Rolly here. He'll pull out like 10 gold and give it over to Rolly. Since I can't talk to anyone, would you mind maybe buying some mushrooms?
Any particular kind? The kind you eat, or the kind you...
Whatever has a whole lot of that nasty shit on the underside that makes more mushrooms.
Spores.
Yeah, the dusty stuff.
They all have it. It's what mushrooms do.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So whatever you can get with 10 gold.
I imagine you can get quite a bit of mushrooms for 10 gold. Jarek, are you sure you want 10 gold worth of any old mushroom?
The bigger the better.
All right, I'll see what I can do. And I will go off for my diamond/mushroom hunting tour.
Okay. So going to the diamond store and purchasing the amount that he was willing to part with for 1,200 gold or 120 platinum. You were given the diamonds that you are looking for. Quick question, because I don't know precisely. So these spells consume a singular diamond of that worth, correct?
They consume diamonds up to that value.
So let's say you had 1,000 gold piece worth diamond, and you used it for like a 300 gold piece worth spell, would that consume the 1,000 gold
I
diamond?
don't know. I'm probably so. I would. What I would be doing is seeing about as these spells tend to go in increments of hundreds. I would be looking to buy diamonds worth 100 gold a piece. So I'd be looking to get 20 diamonds worth 100 gold.
If you go by raw,
Just
it would be
singular diamond, right?
singular diamond, yeah.
My thinking was 1 500 gold diamond for Raise Dead and 5 300 golds for Revivify.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, is how you want to divide it up.
I mean, yeah, we could. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's what I would hope to get.
Because we can't cast Raise Dead anyway, but we
Yeah.
can cast Revivify. So.
Okay, so yeah, you would have 1 500 gold piece diamond and then 5 300 gold piece diamonds.
Yes.
Okay, so that is what you get from him. When you inquire about mushrooms, the only mushrooms that are kind of readily available here are the Mother's Bell mushrooms, the one that's made into earth bread and kind of farmed as like a food source. 10 gold pieces of Mother's Bell mushrooms would be the equivalent of like an entire wagon load of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Does Jarek mention this in earshot of Valoran?
it's up to you guys, however you want to.
I mean, we were at the wagon, so yeah.
Jarek, I'm not sure entirely what you're trying to accomplish, but a pound of wheat would be 1 copper piece.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I mean, dwarves like mushrooms. Maybe they charge more.
Do you need 10 gold pieces worth of mushrooms, or do you need a quantity of mushrooms?
You know, just like a big ass bag of them would be fine.
Big ass bag. Right, I can get you a big ass bag.
Okay. So if you inquire about a big ass bag of mushrooms, visualize like those collection bags they would use to get leaves in the autumn. You know, the ones that have a little pumpkin pattern on them. That is like 5 silver pieces.
I'd get Jarek up. I mean, I can grab it and carry it back, right?
Yeah, but it's like large for you. Like you're like waddling it with it blocking your vision almost.
Anything for my buddy Jarek. So I have 9 gold and some change, and a big ass bag of mushrooms with some diamonds tucked in underneath all that.
But the mushrooms are really the most important part.
Right. Can we eat these mushrooms on their own?
I'm gonna go with no.
Of course not.
Like, at some point in the process of them being baked is what makes them edible.
Oh, right. But I mean, you can cook them and eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They're pounded into like a powder and then mixed with water and then baked like pottery. So
I'll bring that back to Jarek.
okay.
Well, here you go. They only cost 9 gold. Got quite a deal.
Oh.
Just kidding. It's almost free. It's so.
Oh, shit. I was going to say it.
Here's all your money and your mushrooms, and good luck with that. And I'd leave it for him to get the remainder of the way to the cart.
So this is to give you a rough idea, Jarek. Like 30 pounds of mushrooms in a bag.
That's great. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the wagon because I know Jarek's gonna put it on the wagon.
He's just carrying it around like a hobo sack the
Carry
entire
30
time.
pounds of mushrooms on his back. All right,
He's gonna be ripped.
This is mushroom powder.
Is it mushroom powder or mushroom?
No, it's not powder. It's mushrooms, but it can be made into a powder.
Oh, I see what you were saying. So
Will be made into a powder.
mushrooms, a big old sack of mushrooms that weighs
They're called Mother's Bell mushrooms, if you want to know.
And okay, all right.
Don't ask, Valorant. Just don't ask. It's more fun to see what he does.
I mean, guys, all of my plans work out with a certain percentage of success, and that's the main thing we have to focus on. This is an escape plan, just in case we need it.
Fair enough.
So, as everything is situated back into the wagon, Sierra would approach you, Valorant, as like you're inventorying the sack of mushrooms, kind of like stepping up next to you and kind of like almost nudging you with her shoulder a little bit. Like, I appreciate how willingly you paid for the diamond that Adam might need. I know that I'm not the only one with stake in his revival, but I do appreciate it.
Well, no need to butter me up too much. It was an easy choice for more than one reason.
She smiles slightly and kind of like shakes her head back and forth a little bit. Well, I was buttering you up because I thought it was the right time to point out how useless your lantern was.
That's true. The lantern didn't help at all.
It's rather humorous.
Quite funny.
Because I said at the beginning of the adventure that you would not find a use for it, and you did not.
That's right.
Wish you would have taken the bet. And then she turns around and leaves.
0.
Yes.
What will you do now?
Well, for the short time, I do want to see the rest of Adam's potential revival through. I want to travel with you all to the surface city, and see if we can find somebody to enact the ritual. But beyond that, I don't know. I have been disappointed with the commander here. He does not believe me about the Shadow Terror, and that frustrates me.
Doesn't believe you.
Do I hear any of this?
I imagine you'd be within earshot, yeah.
Do you believe this commander would believe the word of a half-beard, or does that mean nothing to him as it seems to mean nothing to most dwarves these days?
She looks over at you and looks over at Valor and kind of realizing that she needs to do some explaining. Despite my prowess, which has been complimented many times, I am not exactly looked upon favorably due to my age and also when I chose to sign up. The wave of dwarves that chose to join the Legion after the Death March have been given a rather obnoxious nickname of Glory Marchers. We are said to only be down here to try and bring glory to ourselves without actually achieving anything, and apparently this commander is rather convinced that I am trying to find some excuse as to why one of the members I was charged in protecting fell while in the highways, and that I am simply making up the Shadow Terror so that I do not look bad.
Bring me to him, please.
Halfbeard, I do appreciate what you are trying to do.
Your pride and reputation, while they mean much to me, actually, it's not really the point. he doesn't believe you, they might send people that way who aren't aware of this danger. It's the actual lives of the dwarves that this idiot might be putting in danger that I'm worried about right now.
She kind of fidgets for a little bit, seeming indecisive for the time being. I certainly won't deny you to speak with him, but the conflict that I have is my life in the Legion has not been easy, and I don't steer away from that because I pride myself in being the best and the bravest and making the road safe for my dwarven brethren. But it seems like the harder I try to do my job well, the less that the commanders seem to respect me. And there is only so much that can go on before I grow tired of it.
Like I just pointed out, we're not doing this for our commanders or our leaders. We're doing it for all the dwarves and humans and Goliaths that happen to walk these paths. It's simple. If I can help make him aware of the danger, I'd like to try.
Okay.
Or you meet with him again. What would you say to a new job?
Valorant, can I assume that you are offering me a place amongst your companions?
You can.
I have 67 more years on my contract with the Legion, and I don't know if it would sit well with me being an Oathbreaker.
That's the only way out of these contracts, then, is to break an oath.
Well, unless I die, but even with the availability of coming back, I would rather not go through that particular event.
Very well, then. It's a pity.
I do appreciate the offer, though. And I will see the surface with you, but I can't go any further than that.
All right.
Well, Halfbeard, do you want to meet with the commander then?
Yes, please.
Okay. How much interest do you have in playing this interaction back and forth?
It's up to you. I mean, I just would.
We could just do like some rolls and some summary if you want to.
Yeah. I would just be trying ultimately to be rational and not provoking him, not trying to beat sense into his skull. Just let him know, look, we really did come across this, and this is how it manifests. These are the abilities it seems to have. This is where we found it, so on and so forth. And I would say that in public, in front of him, and ideally his second in command as well.
Okay.
I would like to actually join him when going to talk to the commander, so I can cast Minor Illusion and give him something to like reference as a visual.
Okay. You okay with that, Raleigh?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, with Jarek's visual aid, I'll go ahead and give you persuasion with advantage. That seems reasonable.
All right.
Ooh. Okay. Hey, the dice are the dice, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sierra would lead you to the commander. He's more or less set up in like a pretty simplistic room, kind of hunched over a table that has a map of the highways kind of spread out before him. There's like a handful of other rather important individuals, surrounding him as well. You and Jarek, talk to the commander mainly, and the rest kind of gathered. Jarek using the illusion to kind of showcase what you guys saw. The best you could reasonably draw from it is that maybe some of the underlings take a little bit more interest in it. The commander still kind of just like scoffs and is like, yeah, sure, fine, okay, and more or less placates you till you'll leave.
Yeah, and that was my whole intention, was just throw a few seeds out there, and because they'll probably come across it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about roughly what you can get. After leaving that, Sierra would like kind of touch both of your shoulders as you're walking, kind of like giving you both a nod, like, I appreciate that you are truly looking out for the dwarves down here, and then turns over to Jarek. You're a good human.
She says...
I know, thank you.
Okay, never mind. I'm not translating.
Yeah. But then yes, you would all gather back up with the wagon, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, what is the plan now, Golden Hearts?
I guess the surface is the next stop.
Okay. So, it's still the 28th, because you guys arrived here in the morning, kind of like going about your business. So, around noon, maybe just getting into the afternoon, you guys would make your way through West Point, the various, loud machinery still filling the space, going onto the passage that leads up to the surface. It's this kind of steep, meandering, built-up roadway. It almost resembles like a giant circular tunnel versus like the straight hallways of the Dwarven Highway. But you do meander kind of up this path until you finally, for the first time in a week almost, see daylight. The bright sun of the afternoon kind of shooting down the angled slope of the cave that you're in. Both Terry and Sierra kind of let out almost like a pained gasp as like their hands kind of go up to their eyes, kind of blocking out the sun. But as you guys see the gates that resemble Vilstein's kind of defenses, if the dwarves ever wanted to attack them, there is like a military structure in place. As you see that kind of coming into view, that's where we're going to end today's session.
Don't you say it. No, not yet. When they see the sky again,
Yeah.
that's when I would like to kind of halt the group and take them aside
Oh, okay.
and say, I would speak with you all. Folk is different from Giles. You find me rigid, tiresome, stick up my ass, and he indicates Rolly when he says that.
It's a small stick, more of a twig in the bum, not a stick up the ass. And yeah, right.
Well, in folk, some consider the Athelvanes radically broad-minded.
Very sorry, it's the air out here is sorry.
Get used to it, Rolly. Get it out of your system now. I'm not jesting with any of you. The opinion of the Athelvanes, more than the debt, is what imperils my house. That is my father's legacy. The expectations on us will be high, and on me highest of all. the whimsical behavior that the Golden Hearts sometimes enjoyed in Giles will not go over.
Valoran, all jesting aside, you're one of us, and we treat you that way. Be assured that we'll be on our best behavior when it comes to outsiders. Right, Thor?
Yeah, Lord Val, we got you.
The fact of the matter is, the Salaman has my mother and my sister. He is clearly confident in his scheme. The Duke of the Duchy, to which our lands reside, leaves Salamon to my administration because I am beneath his notice. His sneering thugs chasing us do not fear me. In her letter, my mother did not ask me to rescue them, but pitifully only to stay alive. And Marcus, my master-at-arms, first and last of my retinue, his last words were scorn for me. I can rely on no one else.
What does it take to become one of your retinue?
Swearing to duty, I suppose.
Well then, let me be the first. And
Don't patronize me.
Valoran. Don't misunderstand me. I've got a far larger sense of humor than I fear you ever will. But I'm not patronizing you. It's clear to me that Bronze Shard, which was never intended to be my home, is no longer anywhere I'm comfortable living. This last group of months I've been with all of you, it's clear to me that the mother has intentions beyond me going back home and holding up at a bar somewhere. I'll outlive you, and until you're dead, I'm yours.
Rolly, I'm moved, truly. Swearing an oath to me as your lord carries implications that are worth discussing. For today, I would suggest you would all put yourselves at my disposal.
Like I said, it's just one human lifetime.
We'll speak on this more. The rest of you, can I count on you in folk?
Valoran, since I began adventuring, after leaving Thrice Tower, I've seen nothing but visions of myself hanging from a rope or dying in a dungeon. To avoid such an end, I will follow your lead. I cannot swear an oath of fealty, but you are a valued companion. I will be there for you.
Thank you, Jarek. I'll do my best.
You know, Lord Val, if you just tell me what to hit and where to hit it, I mean, that's like really all I have. But I'll like wear clothes. You said that I should be wearing clothes.
Some clothing would probably help your image.
Well, I'll wear some clothes for you.
That's more than I ever expected. Thor, thank you.
Alright, I need to find my bear.
Well, Jarek, what you're saying about jails and nooses, I will truly do my best to avoid walking you into such a fate, but we are not safe here. You all have to know that. And
It's been very safe elsewhere. Practically a mother's cradle, really.
Yeah, Rolly tried throwing me down the shaft at Broadenshard, so...
I know that, but this is different to me. Salamon is after my family, my house. And stopping him, I'm not sure what it'll take.
Valorin, perhaps as we ride today, I could get from you a list of Solomon and his heirs as you know it. The more information we have, the better, and as much as I can get out of you before we get there, even better than that.
I won't argue with that, certainly. I have seeds of ideas and things that I will ask you to do when we get to Vilstein.
Jericho absently pat his pocket. Yes, we all have seeds to plant.
Well, I just wanted to place us all on the same page. And whatever happens, thank you.
Jericho bow.
That's where we will actually end today's session.